Yo, what's up, everybody? We're doing another live interview. We got a awesome person with us today, and I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Hi, my name is John. I'm with Madriver, Serpents, and Rattery. We're located here in Cable, Ohio. Um, been breeding ball pythons since 2015. I have around 120 or so animals in my collection at this current time.
That's actually really cool. So, what got you into keeping ball pythons?
Well, it's kind of your typical story that you hear from most reptile enthusiasts. I grew up in the inner city for the majority of my life and then moved to a farm when I was around 14 years old. Um, in that time in the city, spent a lot of time walking creeks, ponds, reservoirs, things of that nature. I've always had a love for animals, even as a very young child, and spent a lot of times reading books, checking out books from the library. Reptiles was always my go-to as far as uh, animals that I wanted to learn about. And around the age of 20, I started keeping corn snakes. Then I started having kids, and the reptile collection kind of got put on the back burner and got out of it for a very long time. And then in 2014, I acquired a normal male from a big box pet store, and it just kind of went downhill from there. So,
I like it. I like it. So is that all you guys work with? Is just ball pythons and rodents?
yeah, so I have ball pythons, and then of course we have the rat breeding operation as well. So I have it's a 12 by 20 external building that's heated in the winter, cooled in the summer, exhaust fans. I think I have around probably 200 breeding female rats, and then aside from the ball pythons, we have a few chickens and a bearded dragon and a couple other dogs, cats, typical household pets.
That's actually pretty cool. I commend people that are able to breed rats. I can't do it. I can't. I can breed them, but it's the smell that gets me. And I mean, I clean them constantly, and I couldn't do it. So I have a huge respect for people that can actually like handle it, and especially in 200 breeder females. That's a lot of babies throughout the year.
So when I first started breeding rats, I got up to around 7 snakes in the collection, and uh, feeder rat prices, I don't know how it is in your area, but in my area, it fluctuates. So some charge a lot more than others do, and it just got to be a hassle, And I learned one thing early in the reptile keeping, that rat breeders are the most, how do I want to put it, undependable people. So you call people for rats, and they'd give you the runaround. Oh, I can do it this day, or I can't do it that day. And I just got to the point where I got tired of chasing rats, and I was like, I'm just going to start breeding. And I started out breeding rats in my reptile room. And anybody that's familiar with breeding rats, they produce a lot of dust. And it just got to be a hassle. I was constantly cleaning dust off the snake racks. And I finally took the plunge 3 years ago and bought an external building, and transferred everything over to that. And that's where I'm at now. So the main thing with breeding rats is, when you have that many rats in a small space, is having good ventilation, where you're able to pull those fumes out of the building and, basically keep a good supply of fresh air coming in.
Yeah, we're talking about doing a building because we're having the same issue out here in Arizona. I mean, it's a rat shortage out here. I saw, and I kid you not, a small rat being sold for $5 a piece, and I was
So
like, hell no.
I was at the pet store today, and I stopped in there because I stop in there periodically to look at their ball pythons, and it's just a small store. It's not a big box store, but they usually have 2 or 3 ball pythons in there, and of course they have the ridiculous pet store prices. But so they had frozen rats today, and their large frozen rats were $14.99 a piece. Mediums were $9.99 and smalls were $6.99. And I'm like, somebody
Hell no.
that has a collection my size, if you were feeding frozen thawed, a medium at $9.99, you'd go bankrupt in the first month of keeping snakes.
No, 100%. I mean, we keep a little of everything, but we're pushing over 400 plus reptiles right now.
Wow.
So, like, I keep majority of that is frogs. I'll put it that way, but they're carnivorous. It's all Pac-Mans, pixie frogs, stuff like that. And then we got the snakes. Like, we got a 13-foot Burmese up here who eats pigs, and I cannot the reason I even moved her to pigs was the rabbit breeder that I was going through out here is done with it. He rather sell for pet rabbits. And that is what it is. But then I went to one breeder, and he was like, "Oh yeah, for a colossal male rat, they were saying it was going to be like over $10 for that one rat." I was like, "Oh hell no!"
I have pretty competitive prices, and I've always taken care of my my repeat customers. So there's times where I have customers call me up and want rats, and if they've bought rats off me several times, I might give them a free, their next order might be free, and we're talking sometimes they want 20, sometimes they want 30. My main thing with my rat breeding operation is I'm not looking to make money off of the rats. My main thing is if I can pay my feed bill every month and pay my electric to run the rat barn and feed my collection, at the end of the day, if I'm helping my neighbor out down the road, that's what it's all about anyway. It's not about getting rich off breeding rats.
I appreciate you jumping in, bro. Sorry we went a little late.
Sean.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that's a great mentality to have. I personally commend you on that, because out in Arizona, I mean, I'll be blunt, there are a few breeders out here who understand there's a shortage and have doubled and or tripled the price of a normal rat because they can. If you don't have a rat to feed your snake, then your snake's not going to eat, and then it's going to lose weight. It's going to have a whole bunch of problems. So at the end of the day, you're forced to either get that rat from that person,
right,
or get it shipped in. But the issue with getting it shipped in is it has to be frozen thawed, unless somebody's shipping live rats. Which good luck finding that. I only know 2 people that do that, and it's definitely not fucking worth it. And so that's the whole issue. So like for the people that have to feed live for certain animals, like I'm not for nor against live. I have to do live for my hots, which is our like, our rattlers and things like that.
Right.
But for everything else, I do frozen thawed. And I have to get my stuff shipped in because nobody in Arizona can keep up with what I need.
And I've had people reach out to me, out of state, wanting to buy frozen thawed, because I do offer those. But it's pretty much on a let me know ahead of time basis. So I don't keep a lot of frozen thawed on hand unless I have, an explosion of rat production in a month and I can't move the lives. I'll euthanize them and then freeze them, because I have a couple customers, that's all they buy, but they only buy small quantity. So it's usually on a basis where if you need frozen thawed, let me know a couple days in advance. I'll euthanize, the ones that you need, get them frozen, and we'll go from there. But I've had people out of state reach out to me and want to buy rats frozen thawed. And, you know, at this point in the game, like, I'm not set up, you know, for the hassle of shipping frozen thawed rats. You know,
Right. A lot of dry ice, super thick cardboard boxes, the insulation. It's a lot that goes into it.
You know, and you have to find a supplier for dry ice, and, you know, it's just a hassle. I work a full-time job, raising kids, running a reptile business, you know, and it's just not in the cards right now for me to even consider shipping.
Man, you start shipping, let me know, because I kid you not, I'm going through over 200 rodents a month.
Wow.
So I'm getting a shipment in every month for just, and I'm filling that one box, and then it's all gone in a month.
Right. And I've had people reach out to me, you know, like, why don't you feed frozen thawed? And, you know, when I look at the benefits of you know, personally, the benefits of me feeding live versus frozen thawed. Yeah, frozen thawed in a lot of people's opinion is more humane. And I understand, you know, both sides of the spectrum. But my thing is, when I'm feeding 100 snakes a week, I don't have time to lay out 100 rats, wait for them to thaw out, warm them up, you know, tease the snake into eating it. You know, I can just walk through in a half an hour, throw a live rat in each one of my tubs, come back 10 minutes later, whoever didn't eat, we pull them back out, and we wait.
Yeah, see, that's week, that. You know? I keep tegus and monitors and stuff. So when we thaw everything out, I'll thaw out early before before the nighttime. I just let them sit, right. And then that way I know they have time to properly defrost. And so when I do that, we defrost a good amount of rats, and then we'll start running through everything. And the reason that I do frozen thaw, it's not the humane thing or anything like that. Like, I do understand the whole spectrum on how people perceive it and stuff. You know, like, I have nothing against live, other than every time I handle a rat, I always get bit. Actually, my fans will tell you anything that I touch, I ends up biting. Even leopard geckos. There's a leopard gecko in here that I will touch, and it will bite the crap out of me. And everybody's like, "Oh, that's not even that bad." My wife can touch anything in here, won't try to bite her. But the second I touch it, something wants to bite me. So either they sense evil, or I just fucking taste delicious. But my thing is, it's just super easy when you're going through, drop a rodent, doom, drop a rodent, doom, like, you just keep going. I know you can do the same with live, just there's a higher risk of, if that animal doesn't eat and the rat starts eating the snake, that's the only issue, because we've had that happen once, and that's when I was like, no more live, we're just doing frozen. It's easier, especially with people not being able to supply the demand that I have in Arizona. I have to go with frozen thawed wherever I can find them, and most times I go through Cold-Blooded Cafe.
So to kind of touch base a little bit on the rats eating the reptile. So I'm going to be a little transparent here. So about, I don't know, a month ago, I always feed on Tuesday, and normal procedure, I go through, I drop a rat in each tub, wait 10 minutes, come back, pull tubs out, check to see if everybody ate, and then I pull out any live rats they didn't eat. So did the normal, which I've done for the last 7 or 8 years, and I missed a rat. So this was on Tuesday night. Wednesday, I come home from work, and I've got a couple females that are really close to ovulating. So I was pulling tubs open, just checking, and I pulled this tub open on a snake that's not even been, you know, paired up for the year. And I see the rat in the back of the tub, and I'm like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." So I get the tongs, I get the rat out, and I start checking the snake. Well, the rat had like chewed the end of her tail off, the very tip of the tail. And I called my buddy Dustin, who lives up the road from me. He's actually in here, Crabtree Constrictors. And dude, I was just like tore up about it. I'm like, I cannot believe I did something so stupid, and that rat had to be up under that snake when I checked tubs. I mean, that's the only thing, the conclusion I can come to is I just missed it. And, we as reptile keepers, we make mistakes, and a lot of people try to brush that under the rug, and I'm transparent, I'm just as prone to make a mistake as the next person. And even now, I mean, she hasn't went off food, I've been giving her betadine soaks and putting Neosporin on it and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that I made a bad decision. And as a result, one of the animals ended up getting injured because of that. So,
when I was picking up live from just anybody who could supply, I picked up one of the worst batches that I could have ever got. These things were aggressive as hell. Like they were eating, like attacking each other in the tub. It was just the meanest rats I could ever find. And it wasn't like I went to get them. I normally buy from this guy. And after that, I stopped buying from the guy. Like I quit, because what happened was I left that rat in there for not even 5 minutes. I went through the top tier. I went through the second tier, got to the third tier, and I started hearing a lot of like flailing. And I'm like, okay, either she just bit this thing on the butt and it's freaking the hell out. Right. And no, it was attacking her head, and she was freaking out, just flailing around in the tub, and I had to pull that thing out. I had to kill the rat. But it was after that, I was like, she was all tore up on the top of her head. If I'd have just kept going and I didn't even check that, it would have eaten her brain. Like it had torn into her that good. She had a nice scar right up on top of her head.
That's crazy.
And it was all because of that rat. So it was like, it wasn't like, I didn't think they were that aggressive until after that had happened and I killed that rat, and I started looking in the bin because I was just grabbing and going. And that's when I look in the bin and I'm watching them attack each other, and like, it was just bad. So at that point, I just culled the whole tub and then started throwing them in, and everybody started eating. So after that, we just said, hey, you know what? Nobody can really supply out here. Let's do frozen thawed. We can at least get that shipped in. We know We'll have the numbers, and it's safer. And so like, it's easier for us now. We do want to, like, I was talking to my wife, we're talking about like setting up a facility in the back, like getting one of those big, like a 10 by 10, sheds, and then just cut out like AC units and stuff like that, and be able to filter it all through. Was the goal. But we're actually looking to move here to a bigger place. So maybe in the future I might try again with rats.
so my rat barn I bought prefabbed. Basically I called the place that builds them and told him what I wanted. I didn't want the big double doors on it because I was planning to heat it in the winter, and that's just a big hassle when you have them big doors on there because heat escapes in the wintertime, and it gets really cold here in Ohio. So basically I told him what I wanted. It took them 2 weeks, I think, to build it, and they delivered it right here to my house, set it up, leveled it. But it was just a shell. It was roof, 4 walls, and a floor.
Right.
So no insulation, no electric. And I did all of the other work myself. I insulated it, put OSB up inside, put the 1/2-inch styrofoam insulation on the ceiling, hooked up the exhaust fans, ran the electric. I did all the work myself, aside from building the building itself. And just because I didn't have time to do that. It was just, and it was cheaper. At the time, building supplies were really high, and I could get a building delivered, set up, and everything for under $4,000.
Right.
And it's like, that's kind of a no-brainer when you think about how much time you're going to have invested building it, getting people
and doing it by yourself.
Yeah, or getting people to come help you. Depending on other people to come and help you and clear up their schedule. I'm just like, you know what? It's just going to be a huge hassle. So we'll just go with the prefab, and I'll do all the interior work on it.
There you go. You have a question in the comments, put it on the screen for you.
So I am in Cable, Ohio, which is in the Springfield. If you're familiar with Ohio, it's the Springfield area. So I'm central. I'm about a half an hour from Springfield. I'm about 45 minutes from Columbus and about 45 minutes from Dayton. So there's 3 pretty good sized cities around me. Cable, it's in Champaign County. It sits out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, they literally don't even have a stoplight. There's a stop sign, a church, a ball field, and a pizza place. That's it.
Man, that's like out here. There ain't nothing out here but stop signs. It's all dirt. It's all we're in the middle of the desert, though.
You guys get all the crazy creatures out there, though.
Oh yeah, we got almost every rattlesnake species is out here in Arizona for the most part.
You guys have Gila monsters. You got scorpions. You got.
I think we got 3 or 4 different type of scorpions out here. We've got different tarantula species.
I forgot about those.
Yeah, we got like 3 or 4. We've got the stripe. We got the desert hairy, the bark scorpion, and then we have one other one that I can't remember off the top of my head. And then we have the Grand Canyon tarantula. We have the Arizona blonde tarantula. We got so much different like cool things out here.
So Ohio,
tons of colubrids.
We only have 3 venomous snakes in Ohio. We have the timber rattlesnake, the Massasauga, and the copperheads. And
I like the Massasaugas.
They're all more south, southern located. So in my area, you don't see copperheads or Massasauga, but there are small like concentration spots of timber rattlesnake.
Yeah,
but they're very highly protected in Ohio.
Yeah, out here we've got 4 different phases or 5 different phases of speckled rattlesnake. We got the blue, the gray, the red, the white, and I think there's one more. And then we have the Arizona black, the black, the Arizona black, which is the Crotalus cerberus. And then we have Western diamondback. We have sidewinders, Mojave greens, twin spot. We've got a ton of stuff. Timber. We got a whole bunch of rattlesnakes out here. I think Arizona is home to the most diverse rattlesnakes in the U.S.
So what's the what kind of regulations do you guys have in Arizona as far as venomous keeping?
The craziest, most lenient freaking laws ever. All you have to have for to own venomous is a hunting license. That's it.
Really?
But the only thing is with that is so you can keep 4 of every species as long as it's not protected. And then you can't have any Gila monsters or anything like that, which totally sucks. But I understand it. And then you can't have anything that's not native. You can only have native hots. You can't have anything that's not native.
See, Ohio is totally opposite. You can't own any venomous in Ohio unless you're licensed. And I think last count I had, there was only 4 licensed venomous keepers in the whole state.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to own anything that is native to Ohio, even non-venomous, unless you have what they call a propagator's permit.
Okay.
And you have to acquire that through the state. And that's not per species. That's per specimen that you have.
Oh, shit.
So you have to have a propagator's permit for each specimen. And to get a license in Ohio to be a venomous keeper, it's nearly impossible. I mean, they've regulated that so much due to the fact that they had the Mansfield incident here years ago where the guy had a bunch of exotic bears and big cats and monkeys, and he ended up letting all those animals loose and then
What?
committed suicide. And
What the fuck?
they ended up calling in Jack Hanna from the Columbus Zoo and a bunch of other animal, I guess.
This is the first I'm ever hearing about this. What? That is insane.
Look it up. It's crazy, dude. So when all this happened, state legislation stepped in and said, this is what you're allowed to have now, and this is what you're not allowed to have. So all crocodilian species are on that not able to keep list, aside from dwarf caiman.
All it takes is one bad apple, right?
One bad apple, man.
And that's it. That fucking sucks. Because that means before he did that, you guys had little to no regulations.
I wouldn't say little to no regulation. I mean, there was still venomous regulations, but I mean, they really put a
hard tight ban on it
to people that wanted to keep big cats or keep monkeys or crocodilian species. There's several snakes they added to that list of animals you're not allowed to have now. And it's always been my lifelong dream to have an alligator, and it's like, somebody had to ruin it.
I have been trying for the past 3 years to get my zoological permit to be able to own crocodilians. From the way that I found out that I can do it, though, is YouTube.
Yeah.
I have to have a large following on YouTube or all of my platforms combined, whatever the case is. I have to reach a certain criteria, and if I can do that, and I'm hitting a certain amount of views and things like that, they will consider allowing me to have my zoological permit to be able to have an educational license as well, to be able to have certain species for that reason. Now, of course, anything that I do end up getting, I would have to send like pictures of the enclosures that it's going to be in and all that stuff. There's a lot that goes into it. And a ton of people kept telling me it's impossible. There's no way it's going to happen. A buddy of mine just opened up a rattlesnake like zoo type thing out here. And he runs it as Rattlesnake Ranch, and they actually gave him his zoological permit. It was an educational license for a while, and then they hey, if you're going to keep getting what you're getting, why not just get a zoo permit? Just apply. And that's exactly what he did. And sure enough, he got approved. Now he can have whatever he wants. Now he just wants to work with anything that he can get the same anti-venom for, which is just the crow fab. Because that's what's most common out here for the anti-venom, and that's what he really likes working with is the venomous like that. But because he has a zoo permit, he can now breed, sell, get stuff shipped in. He just has to keep record of everything, and stuff like that, which I thought was awesome. But yeah, we actually did a couple tours of his facility, and he runs it as Rattlesnake Ranch out here in Arizona. Just opened up this last year to the public.
That's awesome.
I would relocate, but I'm too fat. Dude, I'm fat. What you talking about? I'm still here. I remember that we got messages over our computers and our trying to watch for the animals that were loose. Dude, that's nuts. That's still nuts.
So, kind of really what put the screws to that whole ordeal was they got Jack Hanna involved, which at the time he was like the curator for the Columbus Zoo.
Yeah.
And anybody that's familiar with the Columbus Zoo, at one point in time, they were rated like the #1 zoo in the United States. As far as lowland gorilla breeding programs, they had the first lowland gorilla ever born in captivity. They had so many accreditations for being a zoological park that practiced good animal husbandry, and at one point they were AZA accredited. Well, I think it was last year or the year before last, the AZA actually pulled their accreditation from the Columbus Zoo Come to find out, during Jack Hanna's time at Columbus, there was some misuse of Columbus Zoo funding.
Oh, wow.
They owned some property that was owned by the Columbus Zoo, and they were letting personal family members live at that property free. And it was just a whole mess of things. But at the end of the day, the AZA came in and pulled their accreditation, and they have not gotten it back yet. So
That's nuts.
I don't know how that's affected, their ratings as far as remaining the number one zoo in the United States. But I mean, it's a nice place. The problem is it went from being a nice family oriented zoo to now it's we're in the spotlight, and it's just so commercialized, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, it's not a place that it's become more like a Disneyland than it has, a zoological park.
That's technically how it ends up going. I mean, a lot of things that were on the up and up back then, all that fame ends up going to their head, and once everybody starts really looking into certain things, that's when shit really starts popping up, like things like this, for sure. And I see that time and time again. There's a few zoos out there in Missouri that are doing some shady shit like that, and I mean there's a lot of crazy stuff happening out there. Like there was a zoo that I won't throw this zoo under the bus just because I don't feel like having them come at me, but there was a zoo that actually lost a cobra.
Oh, wow.
It actually got out, but not once, but it got out twice. And it took them 2 times to lose this cobra in an entirely full fucking zoo. And instead of evacuating the zoo, they just kept just had people looking around for it. Highly venomous snake on the loose in the zoo.
Scary in itself.
And they're just like, well, fuck it. Well, somebody's gonna find it. We have all these people in here. Maybe somebody will find it faster than us. Right? I have no idea what their thought process was of this. Come to find out, the way the animal was getting out was the light fixture. They had it inside the enclosure, but they didn't seal the freaking light fixture, which makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Because if you're having an animal on display with a light fixture inside the enclosure, granted, I have light fixtures in some of our enclosures. The ones behind me have light fixtures, but I know for a fact nothing in those are getting out through those light fixtures because they're built on a foundation. And so that is completely sealed in, and then the light fixture is drilled into said foundation. So it's completely sealed off. There's no way anything's getting out. But this was a licensed zoo, and they lost a cobra not once, but twice.
So a question about
that was insane.
Internal light fixtures. Do you ever have any problems with your reptiles, like actually touching the lights and getting burns from it? Or
burns? No. But touching the lights, the worst one I have is this freaking behemoth up here. She likes touching the big ass bulb up top. So I've got strips going across, and originally this wasn't supposed to be her cage. She just was in here because I don't have anything else to put her in as of right now. She was actually dropped off to us because a buddy of mine, or more of an acquaintance, but he ended up losing his place, and he needed to get rid of her. Now she's a 13-foot, 4-pound pig-eating freaking Burmese python, and she loves going up and touching that freaking light, and then she just leaves it alone. After it burns her nose a little bit, it gets hot, so she'll touch it, and then she's like, okay, hey, I'm not supposed to touch that, and she backs off. Now, there are some stupid animals, I'm sure, that will just be like, oh, hey, this is burning, I'm going to sit here. Right. I've seen that happen, but there is, I think it's actually in the cage right now. right behind here. I sealed this off. But there is a heat light in there that has a cage around it, so that way if they touch it, they're touching the metal, and the
Right,
metal's
I've seen
farther
those.
away from the bulb. So that way, if they touch the metal, yeah, it's going to be a little hot, but it's not going to be as hot as touching the really hot bulb, and then them touching it could explode the bulb. So
Yeah,
at least for that one's a hot bulb. That's an actual heat emitting bulb, as to where that one's just more of a light bulb. If she touches that, it breaks, and then I just got to get it before she, crushes it.
I don't know, man. I'm one of these people that like worries a lot. So that would drive me nuts having lights inside.
I have to keep an eye on her because I'm worried that she's going to break that bulb. Like, if you guys ever notice that light is completely off, it's because I took the bulb out. Because I'm like, she doesn't mess with it, but the day she starts really like, I'm going to touch this and keep messing with it, I'm pulling that bulb out because I don't need her breaking that bulb and then like getting glass stuck in her or something, or trying to eat it, for God's sakes. Because that would be terrible. But I don't think she's that stupid. I know she's stupid. She's not that stupid. I hope. Moon, what up, Moon? Appreciate you jumping in. Having great discussion over here. So I appreciate you tapping in. So what is your favorite species to work with?
Mine? So I'm pretty limited on species that I have worked with. Like the very first reptile I ever owned was a green anole.
Oh, that was actually my next question. So that works.
So, my mom was the kind of parent, like, she didn't really care what I brought home from the creeks or the ponds. I was absolutely under no circumstances allowed to bring snakes in the house. My mom was terrified of snakes, lizards, turtles, hamsters, feeder mice. My room at one time when I was a kid looked like a zoo. I had aquariums stacked up in there, and my mom really didn't have any idea what I had in there. I could have probably got by with sneaking, snakes in the house, but, to save grace and not lose my privilege of having any animals.
Right.
Well, I'll stick to the rules, So I had lizards, I had turtles, hamsters, gerbils, feeder mice, salamanders, you name it. If it could be found in a woods or a creek, it ended up in my house at some point in time. And I, to this day, I still tease my mom because my mom, she comes over to the house and she's like, oh, I can't believe you have all them snakes out there in that room. And I said, well, it's all your fault. You're the reason I have a room full of snakes.
You kept telling me no, so I did it.
I wasn't allowed to have them. So, what do kids do as adults when they're told no as a kid? You're like, well, you can't tell me no now.
Yep.
So I might have went a little extreme with it, but at the end of the day, I mean, I still blame my mom.
My wife makes that mistake to this day. She tells me, no, I can't have this, and no, I can't have that. My famous motto is, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
That's true. If you were to ask my wife how much any of these snakes cost, she'll tell you $50. Well, I think you paid $50 for that one.
So we vended our first show at Pomona beginning of this month, and I had everybody. Huh?
Was that your first show ever?
No. That was my first time vending.
Oh, first time.
I always vend with other people, helping them out. I never vend my own animals. I normally wholesale. So I've been doing this for 18 years, and I normally wholesale to everybody. So I either just sell them to them or for them to sell at the expo, or sell to the stores and do things like that. And so that's my goal on that. So we finally got the opportunity. I was over helping JTK Reptiles, and we had helped him like 2-3 times at this point, and he was like, hey, why don't you ever bring reptiles? Like, you always got a bunch of stuff. Why don't you ever bring anything? I was like, not my booth, not my table, and I didn't want to be that guy. And he's like, nah, dude, like, bring stuff out next time. So we talked about it, and he gave me a whole table, and he's like, if you can fill the whole table, great. He's all, if not, I'll put some stuff on your table and you'll just help me do what I normally do. But on top of that, you're selling your own animals and making some money.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm down. So we went out, we brought a bunch of reptiles, and me and the wife decided that anytime we're able to, we're just going to go vend. So because we barely had anything really worth selling. I mean, I brought some sulcatas, leopard geckos, a handful of tarantulas, and that's about it. And we walked out of there with over 4K.
Oh, you can't beat that, man.
Oh, no. And so I was like, yep, that's it. We're totally vending. Now, I don't believe every expo is going to be that good.
No, they won't. They won't.
But, I mean, it's still worth a try.
You know,
And, you'll miss every opportunity if you don't take a chance, you know? So, but I had everybody dying because I brought a paper and I put it up on my table. And I was like, for an additional $10, I will write a receipt for the amount of price that you want to tell your wife you paid for this animal.
Right. And
I kid you not, I had 3 people come up and was like, "Hey, here's $10. I need a receipt for this." And I didn't think, I just did it for fun, like shits and giggles. I wasn't actually serious, but my wife was like, just in case this happened, I bought this. And she gives me out this whole like receipt paper and everything. She's like, I got you. I was like, fuck it, let's do it. So we're totally going to be drinking that every time now.
Oh, yeah. Made an extra $30.
But yeah, for $10 for the hell of it.
I mean, depending on the show.
It was funny as hell to me.
I mean, depending on the show, like the shows I vend, it's usually 25 to 35 per table. So, you know, that extra $30 paid for a table.
See, our tables so these are the Reptile Super Show tables. So they're like $300.
Oh yeah, they're expensive.
Yeah, it's like $300 per table, if not a little over. And so it's, I mean, for California has been really good to us going out there. Even for like when I have a ton of sulcata hatchlings, I just bring them to California. If I don't sell them out, like ship them out or anything, I'll just drive them out there because my wife wants to go to the beach. And I'm selling over 100+ babies. So I'm like,
do you do any shipping?
Yeah, I ship everywhere. I ship over 500 boxes worth of reptiles a year.
I might be hitting you up for a sulcata.
All of that up there is some of my shipping material. Like,
yeah, you can see mine in the
2 brown boxes are full of shipping boxes, and then there's like 6 more over there, and like 7 or 8 more boxes in my room.
Yeah, so I just started vending, I don't know, probably 6 months ago. And basically just to get out of the house on the weekends. My main goal going into vending was, you know, as long as I sell enough to pay for my table and maybe make a little cash on the side, I'd be happy, you know. And
that's my thing. As long as it pays for a trip, I'm happy about it because I have a lot of fun at shows. You know, like we actually helped. We did 3 first reptile sales. So this was their first reptile. They ended up getting leopard geckos from us, and then we did 2 birthdays. So it was their birthday that day, which was funny because one of the birthdays was Saturday, and that was my daughter's birthday. She turned 7 on the 7th of this month. So we took her out, and then we took her to the expo, and she had fun. She was like, "Why are we here again?" I was like, "Oh, well, they heard it was your birthday, so they put this big show on for you for the weekend." Like, and it was funny because the promoter came, and he's really nice, Rami. And he was talking to her, and he was like, "Oh," she's like, "It's my birthday today." And he was like, "Oh, it's your birthday?" She's like, "Yeah, they put this show on for me for my birthday." And he looked at me, and I just started laughing. He's like, "Yes, we did." And it was funny as hell. But it was a lot. It's a lot of fun. I like doing that. Yo, KY Constrictors, what up, brother? I appreciate you jumping in. I'm sure you're at work.
So what's funny is when I got into the ball pythons, well, actually back into reptiles again, I had convinced my wife to let me buy a ball python at the pet store, and it was a big box store. And I way overpaid for a normal, but I don't care. He's still in my collection, but he's probably got a better life than he would have had, if somebody else would have bought him.
Right.
So it started out with one, and then I had bought like the beginner setup that the pet store recommends for ball pythons, because I didn't know a damn thing about ball pythons when I bought my first one. I'd kept corn snakes and colubrids and all that, but I had never kept a ball python. And I bought the starter kit that the pet store sells, which I way overpaid for that too. But and then I started joining the ball python groups on Facebook and started, investing time and reading, questions that people were asking in there. And I'm like, you know what? I've got this thing set up all wrong. So I bought my first rack from Serpents and ended up with an 8-tub rack. And I only had one snake. And I told my wife, I said, I got to fill these other 7 drawers, like. So 1 turned into 5, 5 turned into, 10, 30. And what's funny is I bought my house in 2015, which was the same year that I hatched my very first clutch of ball python eggs. And I had been pairing this female up when I lived at my other house, not knowing she was gravid, she was going to lay eggs or anything. We're literally in our house for a week, and I go to open the tub to feed her, and I'm like, oh shit, there's eggs. No incubator. So I was not prepared. So here I am at 9 o'clock at night on YouTube, like, how do I build an incubator? And I ended up going to Walmart and buying just like a pop cooler, that's got the flip up lid. And
yeah, I've seen a few of those with the tank heater, right?
No, I ran heat tape on the bottom of it, and then I put like a PVC frame, and then I laid that like egg grating on top of it and set my tub on it. I hatched my very first ball python clutch in my dining room. Like I didn't have
this awesome
reptile room at the time. This was still a garage, and it was just, dude, it was like a drug. When I hatched that first ball python, it was like, dude, I want to do this the rest of my life. And it's like every year when ball python season breeding comes around, and you start producing eggs and you start seeing them babies coming out, and it's like a drug all over again. Like it does not get old. I don't care how many times you watch ball pythons hatch, or any reptile for that matter, or how many clutches you produce. Every time is like, I don't know. It's like that drug.
It's like Christmas all over. I get it, man. I get it. That's what got us, like, kept us going back, and then doing different species is just because I like diversity. I don't want to say I get bored easily, but I get bored doing certain things. So I think that's pretty awesome that you hatched out, and the way you did it was pretty unique. I haven't heard people do it that way. Most times I hear it is through. Incubator. Do you really?
Yeah, it's out in my shed. I don't use it anymore, but I still have it.
Sentimental, man. You gotta keep it.
It's one of those things I'll never throw away. Even though I could never use it as a pop cooler again because I had to drill holes in it to run cords and shit through it. It's like, what do I do with it at this point? But it's just the whole nostalgia of it, I guess. So
right,
it'll be in the shed collecting dust.
Hey man, well, later on when you look back and people ask, hey, what was the first thing you ever used for an incubator? Well, you all learn today.
It's funny because like, I don't know, I'm petty about some things. So like, I have the very first $1 I ever made from selling a snake, cool. And I have the very first ball python I ever hatched, and she's just a normal, but she'll be here the rest of her life, and it's, I don't know, it's just one of those things where like certain things you hang on to, even though they don't have meaning to anybody else, or people might question like, why would you do that? Or why would you keep that? It's just a normal. Well,
I get that a lot. there's
the
so
whole blood,
much
sweat,
that
and
we
tears,
keep
you
for
know,
that
like,
reason. It's long as it makes sense to you and it brings you joy. The hell with what anybody else has to think about it.
exactly, you know, and to kind of touch base a little bit, you know, I've been in some of the ball python groups on Facebook, you know, and some of
Oh
these
god.
people in these groups are fucking ruthless, you know, like
Oh yeah.
if you're not a seasoned keeper, if you're a newbie, dude, they don't want shit to do with you. You know, they're laughing at you, they're pointing at you, they're calling you stupid,
I
you know,
got kicked
and
out of one just last week for one of my, so I didn't even post it. It was one of the people who follows my Facebook page shared one of my posts to that group, and they kept tagging me in the comments. Like some of the commenters were tagging me in there trying to start shit with me. I was like, dude, I'm not even part of this group. Like, the hell? So I literally joined a group just to get kicked out of a group, which was hilarious, by the way, because this lady's name was Karen. She was legitimate. She runs three. She runs three groups. It's not the first time I've dealt with her. I am kicked out of
nice.
all three of her groups because her name is Karen. She is a pet care specialist for Petco.
Oh, nice. One of the experts.
Yeah, that's what she tells everybody. She says she's a fucking expert. I can't. Like, I give her so much crap every time because she always she's okay. So she doesn't keep reptiles. She just takes care of them from the store. That's it. She doesn't own any.
And most of
And
the time,
so,
their husbandry is completely off. It's
oh
wrong.
yeah, oh yeah. I had to correct. I went in there for some feeder fish for some of the turtles that we have, and so I go in there. And I kid you not, I'm looking at a green tree python. I don't know why they had a Biac green tree python or Biac, however they say it. I say Biac, but I'm wrong on like 6 different ways to pronounce things sometimes. But they had one or two of them, no stick for them to sit on. They just had them sitting on the floor
They're just
like a
laying on the
normal ball
floor.
python.
Wow.
And I'm like, you guys are joking right now, right? Like, did you guys forget to finish this? They're like, oh no, they've been like this for like 2 weeks. So I was like, they've been like
You
this
do
for 2
realize
weeks.
those are arboreal, right?
I was like, you guys do know they go up in trees. You know they're arboreal? And they're all, no, they're not. They're ground dwelling. Like,
No, they're not.
you see the name. Let's read the name with me. I brought this chick over, right? Well, you need to read the name with me. Green tree python. So one more time. Tree python. And like I had like people dying in the fucking store because I'm literally talking to this chick like she's an idiot, which I mean it wasn't far off. And she got so mad.
Right.
She's like, "Well, I take care of these animals. I know what I'm doing." Blah 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 blah. I was like, "Okay, I breed these animals. You're gonna tell me I don't know what I'm doing? Like you take care of them, I own them and breed them, and I don't know what I'm telling you." And this lady got all butthurt. And then a buddy of mine, I told him about it, and he went to go see if they would like drop the price on them for whatever to like try to get them. And he sent me a picture. He's like, "Hey, look, there's 6 in here now."
I
And
had a lady
yeah, no.
I had a lady tell me in the ball python group that you should never spray water in your ball python's enclosure. And I told her, I said, because it doesn't rain in the wild. She said, well, if you're going to spray your enclosure, you shouldn't get your snake wet. I said, because it doesn't rain in the wild? Like, my snakes sometimes will just go chill in the water bowl just, because, like.
It helps with shed.
It's not because they have mites. It's not because they're in shed. I have a ball python female on dude ever since she was a baby. Like she'll literally put like 4 to 6 inches of her neck and her head in the water bowl. Like not her body, just her head and her neck. And
they're just like us. We're not supposed to. Or we go to swimming. It's not because it's hot. Just because we want to go swimming. It's the same freaking thing. They want to go out. They can do whatever they want. But like, I have gotten so much shit like that. And then the one thing I got kicked out of a Savannah monitor group because a lot of people did not like this comment. So every single post I saw was an obese Savannah monitor. Every single one of them. And I mean, like, you look at this thing and you're like, damn.
Damn,
Like,
you
this thing is fat. And like, I want to sit there, and I'm a fat dude, you know. I'll play with my own fat. Like, sometimes I'll do the truffle shovel or whatever. Like when I'm sitting there in a chair or something, I'm gonna want to do that to that thing. Man. Like that thing's that fat. So like, let's see if this fat dude will come out. So this is a Savannah right here, and this is where I got shit for it. Let's see if I can get this fat ass come out. Where are you before I start sticking my hand in places? Hey. He's trying to bite me. Come here. So this dude, you can see he's not super fat. He's healthy. They said that he was too skinny. I was like, if you people seen how they come in from the wild, they're not fat. They're not super thin, but they're thin enough to, like, he's fatter than most average ones that come in import. And there you go, you can go back. I'm sorry. And it's because so that way they can chase bugs and be agile to do what they need to do in the wild instead of being super fat and obese and lazy. And I got kicked out of the group because the one person has an fascination with obesity reptiles. Like, she was trying to tell me that she looked at some of my tegus, and because my tegus were not like bursting at the seams in body weight, that apparently they're too thin and that I'm a horrible breeder. Like, I don't. I stay out of Facebook groups because of it. It's too toxic.
Well, I'm in a lot of the groups, but I'm not active in those groups, you know. So like, I'll scroll through and read some of the conversations, but I don't chime in because here's my take on it. Okay. What works for me may not necessarily work for you. Okay. I've developed a system within my breeding facility that works for me. You know, and I had a guy literally message me a few weeks ago. He's a really good friend, and he's having some issues getting his females to produce clutches, you know, and it's trial and error. You know, it's not going to be a success every year. It's not.
For sure.
Any breeder that tells you they have a successful year after year after year after year, there are downsides in that breeding season that they're not telling you about. Okay.
Yeah. There's slugs. There's tons of different things that go out.
That reabsorb. They're not telling you about the slugs. They're not telling you about the babies that didn't develop right in the egg and were deformed, you know.
Or just didn't make it through the development.
You know, and I had a long conversation with him, and, you know, I told him, I said, this is what I do. I don't know if this is going to work for you, but it works for me. You know, and I'm the type of person, you know, my system is my system. I've tweaked it. You know, I've done things differently to see if the outcome would be different. And what I do works for me. It may not work for you. And I don't want him to take the information I gave him and run with it and then have a shitty year and be like, well, it's all your fault. You know, and I told him that. I said, I can't tell you if it's going to work or not. I know it works for me.
The way I normally tell people, there is no one right way to do anything. What works for me in the desert may not work for you in the colder climates. What may work for some people in the colder climates may not work in, like, California.
That's like me. I'm in Ohio. He's in Texas. You know, we're two totally different climates.
Yep.
Yeah, it gets cold in Texas, but it doesn't get Ohio cold in Texas.
Right.
You know, right now I've got 6 inches of snow, or, you know, 5 inches of snow on the ground outside. Texas, I'm sure they don't have snow right now. There might be parts of Texas that has snow, but for the most part, it's not
like Arizona.
You know, and we talked about breeding. We talked about breeding rats too, and I told him, I said, you know, in Texas, you're not going to have to worry about heating your rat barn, you're going to have to worry about keeping it cool enough.
Yep.
Because in Ohio, yeah, it gets in the 90s in the summer, but it's not a consistent 90. So it might be 90 today, and tomorrow it's going to be 72. You know, in Texas, when it gets hot, it stays hot for weeks on end. And, you know, we're going to have to find a way to offset that temperature in your building so that your rats aren't living in 90-degree heat for weeks on end. You know, my rats can handle a day of 90-degree heat if I keep the door open, but it's not like that every day. It's not like that.
See, our temps average during the summer 115 on average every day.
I've never seen 115 in Ohio in 44 years of life. I've never seen 115. You know, it gets 90, 95, sometimes 100 with the heat index, but you know, all I got to do is open the rat barn and blow, you know, put the fan at the door and pull that hot air out of the building, and they're good because as soon as it gets dark, it's going to drop down in the 70s. Right. And then it's usually before, you know, noon or after the next day before the heat starts climbing again. And by that time, I'm already been up, opened the doors up, because I'll close the doors at night, you know, when it starts cooling down. But in the wintertime, my main goal in the wintertime in my rat barn is to keep it above freezing so the water lines don't freeze up. It gets down to 40 degrees in my rat barn. And you know what? I've never had an issue where my rats stopped producing babies because it got too cold. You know, you put extra bedding in there in the wintertime. Rats have fur. You know, how do wild rats live? You know, wild rats will still produce babies in the wintertime.
Oh, yeah.
So my main goal in the wintertime is to keep it above freezing so my water lines don't freeze up, but not so high in there that I'm running $1,000 electric bill a month trying to run heat out there, you know, for rats at that. So, but, you know, the things that work for me in Ohio are not necessarily going to work for somebody in Texas or Arizona or California, Louisiana, Florida, you know, down there where it's warm all the time. You know, we have 4 seasons here. It's spring, summer, winter, and fall.
Right. That's basically, it's summer and then a cooler summer, fall, cooler summer, and then it's just summer again. That's Arizona weather for you. Like it's almost always summer here. Like it's winter time and cold. My wife just came in from outside and it gets cold in the dark time, but it's hot during the day. You're cold. Y'all can keep that 115 if you broke a sweat just hearing that.
Yeah, dude, I'm fat, and in the summertime when it gets hot, I get angry, dude. Like I hate being fucking hot. Like
that's me. Dude, everybody hates being around me during the summertime.
You know,
I'm an ass, dude. I'm like, leave me alone. It's fucking hot. Don't talk to me. Don't even look at me.
I set the air conditioner on 65 in the summer, and my wife bitches at me like, it's so cold in here. And I'm like, go put clothes on because I'm fat and I'm hot.
Yep. Well, see, what sucks for me is so I run hot. So my body temp is naturally 100. And so I'm always hot no matter what. Like right now, it's cold outside, but right here, I'm breaking a sweat just sitting here. Probably because it's ambient temp in here is like 90. But
it's 80 in my room right now.
It's like 90 in here, I think. Let me see. Yeah, it's 89 in here right now. So, but if I go to my room, it's a brisk 75. Because a lot of our stuff is in brumation. So we've got the one part of the room is closer to like 60, and then the part where my bed is at is like 70, 75.
And speaking of brumation, that's kind of the other reason I'm glad I got out of colubrids, you know, because like that whole putting them in brumation and all that shit, like that's just not for me.
Well, so we got colubrids and then we got tegus. So I've got reds, I've got blues, I've got black and whites, and all of them have to brumate. And so when they brumate, it's actually, I mean, it saves me a ton of money on their fucking feeding. I tell you that, because I have a lot of tegus. And that's another reason why I like doing the frozen thawed, because whatever nobody eats in here or in the other reptile room, I can take and go put or make sure they eat in or go if they don't eat it in here, like the snakes and stuff refuse, I just go take it to the tank and they'll devour it.
Well,
Like, oh,
that's
it's
kind of the other
you.
reason I don't. That's kind of the other reason I don't feed frozen thawed is because I don't have any garbage disposal, so to speak. So and I'm one of these people. I don't like to waste things.
Thank you. Sorry, my son came in.
No, it's all right, man. I
It's
don't
okay.
like
He
to be
walked out.
wasteful. So if I have rats that I thawed out and the snakes didn't eat, I'm going to feel bad throwing them in the trash. Like
Right. So what I'm hearing is I need to send you a tegu, so that way you got a
honestly,
garbage disposal.
if I had the room to have a tegu, I would. But here's my thing: like my snake room is 12 foot wide and it's 24 foot long. I mean, it's 288 square foot, big enough for my ball pythons. But I would feel bad as a keeper if I could not provide proper enclosure size for a large lizard or, a big snake.
All you need is about an 8 foot by 4 or 8 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot is like the max you'll need for a single. And that's for like a big male.
I mean, they're cool as shit. There's one of my buddies that lives, about an hour and a half from me. He's got 3 tegus, and he keeps them in one of those big, like grow tents in his basement, they use for growing marijuana.
Yep.
Dude.
Yep. A lot of people use grow tents. I just sold 2 babies to a guy that wanted to put them in straight into a grow tent, and he's like, I'm gonna set it up. He sends me pictures of them all the time. I told him that he's got to watch it though, because they got so much space that they're not gonna want to mess with him. But he still sends me pictures. He's like, they won't come to me. I'm like, well, you gotta learn. You need smaller enclosures until they're bigger, but whatever, you'll be all right.
See, honestly, what I want to do is I want to build a greenhouse, a glass greenhouse. I don't want these cheap ass stretchable plastic and none of that shit. I want a actual glass panel greenhouse is what I want.
That'd be cool.
Just a small one. And I want to make a large reptile enclosure outside that I can heat in the wintertime. And, I'd like to keep like tree dwelling lizards and shit in it. And, just someplace not for breeding purposes or anything like that, but just someplace where you could go fucking hang out and have a beer. And if a lizard climbs down out of a tree and sits on your shoulder, that'd be fucking cool as shit in my opinion. But, I just want a place, where I could keep a larger species of lizard. Hell, maybe even an iguana for that matter, like I would like to have just a small glass greenhouse that I could heat in the wintertime and keep like natural, tropical plants and shit in it. And
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
See, I don't have a green thumb. I cannot. The only plant that I can keep alive for some reason is the golden pothos. I have no idea why I can't kill those things, but I cannot kill those things. I can kill everything else though. Give me any green plant. Like I had Venus flytraps, and somehow I killed those. Even to the roots. I don't even know how. All I did was just hang from my ceiling and catch some flies and stuff, but they died. I hear
they have to have high humidity though.
I think that's probably what it is the humidity, because I did not have a lot of humidity in this room, but there's a ton of it in my reptile or my other reptile room. Over where the frogs are at.
All the ones I've ever seen as far as like Venus flytraps, people keep them in like glass terrariums where they can, the condensation keeps it constantly, humid and.
That's something I might end up having to do.
I don't know. If you counted growing weeds as gardening, like I had the most amazing fucking garden you ever seen last year.
Oh yeah, I'm that way right now, dude. We've got weeds as tall as a 5-foot fence right in my backyard that I just been letting grow up, and then I let the kids run out there and they start pulling them out of the ground and feeding them to the tortoises. So it's like it's free food for the tortoises. I'm like, let it grow. It grows naturally. Let it grow. Once I notice it's like falling down and everything, start ripping that stuff up and throw it to the tortoises. They'll eat it. Free food.
Yeah, I had this bright idea last year. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to plant a garden this year because the year before I didn't plant one because, you know, I have fields on two sides of me that they farm soybeans
Nice.
and corn. And the guy that owns that field, he doesn't have good weed management in his field. Yeah. So every fall that shit all goes to seed. It blows onto my property. And then, you know, the following year I have a cash crop of weeds. So I thought last year, well, you know what? I'll till up my garden again. And I'm going to make a conscious effort to stay on top of it this year and keep the weeds out of it. And I was good for about a month. And then, you know, we got one good rain. It got too muddy to get in there to pull all the little weeds that were coming up. And dude, within 3 days, I mean, it was like a fucking explosion of weeds. And I'm just like, I can't even stay on top of this now. So I basically just let the weeds take over the garden. I harvested some tomatoes and shit out of it, you know, late summer. But for the most part, I mean, the weeds pretty much took the garden. And until I get to a point where I can be home and manage that on a daily, like it's not something I can do right now. You know, like I said, I work a full-time job and trying to raise kids and maintain the reptile collection. I mean, there's not enough hours in the day for everything that I want to do. And I have to limit what it is I do. And reptiles is definitely something I'm not going to get rid of or give up. So I guess gardening will take a back seat until I can retire.
I know my wife does some gardening during the summertime, and she grows a bunch of just random stuff. And then we're not very much fruit or veggie eaters. Like I'll eat some fruits. I'm not a big veggie guy. And so, I mean, you know, I'm fat, so. So most of it she just grows just to feed to the tortoises and, you know, stuff like that. So that way it kind of cuts on our feed bill a little bit. But yeah, that's the only thing we ever grow. She'll grow like tomatoes and lettuce and watermelon. She grew pumpkins this last year. A whole bunch of pumpkins. It was pretty awesome. Tortoises loved it. Had a whole, like, I think they had pumpkins for almost 2 months. Like they just kept walking through, just smashing pumpkins over there, and then they had a blast. So what is your favorite morph out of your ball pythons? Like if there's something top of your head, even if it's not even in your collection yet.
So the projects I'm working with that I'm really excited about, VPI Xanthic, Ultramel, just got a 100% het sunset male. So going to work him into the collection eventually. I would say probably the hottest morph on the market right now that has really got my attention is the sunset stuff and the monsoon stuff that I can't afford, you know. So
what about Hurricane?
Hurricane, I love. I mean,
I was all about sunset when it first came out, but after seeing what it does up into adulthood, it just browns everything out. I can't. It
Here's
looks
the thing,
really
though.
cool.
I think there's potential there because, you know, we're still early in the game with sunset.
Bro, oh yeah.
I mean, there's very few people that are producing multi-gene sunset stuff right now, you know, and the ones that are the ones that bought into it way early in the game. And, you know, they have females now, you know, 3 years ago that were producing eggs that they were pairing to multi-gene males. And, you know, we're starting to see some of the multi-gene sunset stuff hitting, you know, Instagram and Facebook. And I think, honestly, there has not been enough invested time in sunset to really say how it's going to pan out. You know, like some of the early stuff that I'm seeing with these multi-gene animals, like this shit's amazing, but how is it going to look 2 years from now when it's an adult, 3 years from now?
That's my thing with that, is I want to know how it's going to look.
I kind of don't want to be behind the 8 ball on it, you know, because I already am. I mean, there's breeders that's been working sunset now for 7-8 years.
Right.
But I don't want to be behind the 8 ball getting it integrated into some of my animals if down the road it's going to pan out to be, you know, something that is really going to be an eye-catching gene. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's like pastel. That shit browns out, but paired with certain genes, I mean, the pastel really pops, you know? So I can't say that I'm ruling out sunset at this point, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to see in the next couple of years when some of these babies that they're producing are adults and how the gene really acts, you know, into adulthood.
I'm curious to see how that turns out. You know, I personally, I don't work with any sunset anymore. I had 2 hets. We produced visuals, and then that was around the time Lucian got diagnosed. So then I just let them all go, just to make sure that we were above water, you know. And I wish I'd have kept the visuals, at least.
Oh yeah.
But at that time, it was just better to have the money before, you know, things started taking the turn. And it's basically what kept us afloat too. So can't be too mad at letting them go. We're starting to rebuild this year. We're trying to, at least. But we put a halt on it because, like I said, we're trying to move. There's a lot that went into that whole ordeal. But we're trying to get everything back, you know. But Sentinel is pretty something we want to try. Sentinel, I say Hurricane because there is a possibility that a Hurricane may or may not be here. That is a 5-gene female from one of our wholesale lists. And the reason that she was on the wholesale list is she has spider. So from my understanding, the spider isn't that bad in this one, but it could get worse later on. So I don't know. But for $300 for a Hurricane, spider, like 3 other genetics in that, I can't beat it. I mean, even if it's just a cool ass pet. I think,
and you can isolate that gene out away from.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was my goal. But like the thing is like with the spider, if its wobble is way too bad, I'm not gonna breed it. Like because even if it does produce a ton, I would hate to put something through it through that if it's like too, I don't want to say like, you know, mentally not there, but most spiders have that genetic deficiency, and so it's something that I have to worry about. Now, don't get me wrong, I love spider. I love what it does. Like with the pattern wise, I think it looks fantastic in certain genetics. And I even proved something out. So we actually, just for the hell of it, I had nothing big enough to breed to my Volta ball python. So I bred a big spider, or just a normal spider, bred that to our Volta. Now, the reason I did it was I was curious if the genetic of the Volta, being it's just a locality, but that locality gets bigger, has bigger clutches. And I mean, most people can vouch for this that have actual Volta. Their feeding response is almost of a large constrictor. Like they slam their food.
Oh yeah. I've got a female and I can't prove she's Volta, but her feeding response is totally different.
If you send me a picture of her head on your hand, I can tell you whether or not it's a Volta. There is a certain thing with their head that it just looks completely different in size, the weight of the animal, as long as it's a healthy weight, that it just there's something about the head that just is a dead giveaway.
Well, and that's the thing with her head, dude. Her head is huge. Like,
yep,
it's massive. And
how big is like what like gram wise? What is she at around?
So last year she didn't produce eggs. The year before she produced 13 eggs.
Nice.
Okay, and right before she laid eggs, she was right at 7,000 grams.
Okay, I like it.
Dude,
that's a
massive.
Big girl.
Like,
that if she's that big, I tell you right now, that's probably it's either Volta or a high concentrated bloodline of Volta, meaning that it was just a Volta bred to a normal, and she just carries that Volta genetic, because this Volta female.
She's actually the female that gave me the first clutch of eggs I ever hatched, and I have
her
that's
daughter. Awesome.
I have her daughter as well, which is the very first ball python that ever hatched here at my facility, and she's 7 years old, and she's not nearly as big. She's not nearly as big as mom.
So,
but I mean,
then if that's the case, then it would be that she was a high concentrated or just a half and half Volta Royal, and then she took after the Volta, and then breeding her to a normal Royal just gave you a high concentrated normal locality Royal with a little bit of Volta blood in her.
That makes sense.
Because so this Volta female, she laid for us already or before, and so right now she's sitting at 5,000 grams. Now her daughter is sitting at 3,000 grams, and she just turned 3, and she laid last year. So she's sitting at 3,000 grams comfortably. Like, I'm not trying to power feed them. This thing will take 2 medium rats if I let her. She's that ridiculous.
Biscuit, that's her name. She can eat a large rat. She can eat a large rat.
Yeah, that's Volta.
No problem.
That Volta, she'll smack her large. Like, if these dudes don't eat their large rats, whenever I give it to them, I give it to her, and she'll take it and look for seconds. I'm like, dude,
I don't normally feed her large rats, but there's an occasion where, I don't move all the rats that I have for sale, and I'll let them hang out in the rack. And, some of them get too big to where my other ball pythons can eat them, and she ends up getting them. I'll hold them back. Nice. I'm like, well, Biscuit can eat them. And Crabtree Constrictors, he lives right down the road from me. And
yeah, he just said she's a big old girl.
Yeah, the first time he came over, I said, dude, you've got to see this ball python. It's literally the biggest ball python I've ever seen in person. And I opened that tub, and he's like, holy fucking shit, dude. Like, dude, her head is massive.
Yep.
Like, when I say that, like, I compare it to all my other ball pythons, and I'm like, dude, she could put their whole head in her mouth. Like,
yep. She is, I will tell you right now, put money on it. She's Volta. Now, how much Volta is in her, I couldn't tell you. But off of what you told me between the daughter and the mom comparison, if she's 7 years old and she's nowhere near the size of the mom, then I'm going to say she is at least 75% normal Royal to 25% Volta. Or something along that genetic line.
Right.
Because when I bred this Volta to the normal spider, that spider was only maybe about 1,900 grams. He was just a fat ass spider. But he had a pretty decent wobble. It was mostly when he was really trying to focus in on eating.
Like when he gets really excited.
My goal was to breed that to the Volta to see if, since she has nothing wrong with her whatsoever, her food response is so good, maybe that would mask the spider. Right. And I would have to continuously keep breeding this to see if that's something that would be super true. But as of right now, in the one pairing, and I got this female back, because I sold them all because I was like, "What? I don't need a ton of spiders."
Right.
So I kept them all. There was no wobble. There was no curling, nothing. And then when we sold them all, I just sold them as normals and spiders. I didn't tell nobody about the Volta in them, nothing. I just let them go as just pets. One of them came back, and that was this big female spider Volta. Now, this girl is, I know for a fact, just a royal, and Volta still has no wobble, no curling, corkscrewing, nothing. And she slams food as bad as her mother. Like when it comes to feeding time, I have to open the or pull her out, and I have to have these long forceps for them, or else they're gonna get me every time because they are batshit crazy when it comes to food. And so that's, at least on that aspect, I know the Volta masked the spider wobble. Now I would have to continuously try to breed that, do different pairings of different spiders, different Voltas and things like that to see if that's true or not. Right. But it's something to think about. Now I did get a Volta male, and I am possibly sitting on a high bloodline, or a 50-50 bloodline between a Volta and Pied, visual Pied. Ooh, nice. So he's a low visual Pied, but he's got Volta in him. He's huge. For being a young male, he's huge. So he's actually being bred to a Volta Poshet Pied. So we're gonna see what comes out of that, because if there's any Volta Pied out of that, I'm gonna be excited, because that's gonna be just some big ass Pieds.
If you decide to get rid of any, if you produce any, let me know. I don't care if it's
male
for
sure,
or female.
For sure. Oh, for
preferably a male, because I'd like to have a Volta male to pair to her.
That's what everybody tells me, they want a Volta male. I got I think 6 people that I've told this to, and every one of them was like, I need a male or a pair. Preferably a pair, but if I have to, I want a male.
I know typically the males don't get as large as the females. I mean, that's a given.
Oh no.
But I do have some males in my collection that are every bit as big as a full-grown female.
Yeah.
You know. And it's not because they're overfed. It's just snakes are like people. You know, they don't all grow at the same rate. They don't all finish out at the same weight. You know, you have short people, you have tall people, you have skinny people, you have people like me. And, you know, it's at the end of the day, that's what makes your collection unique. Like,
no, for sure. You know, and that I think the Voltas are like my highlight, like, of bringing out. Like, I mean, we've got some crazy genetics that I never really show off, but I mean, I like the Volta more than I like some of the 3 or 4 gene animals. Now, it's not saying that the 3-4 gene animals aren't pretty or anything. It's just, I'll pull out a normal ball python, and this thing is, you know, the size of a young juvenile, you know, Burmese python or something, and you're like, okay, this is supposed to stay small, and you're over here with a freaking mini Burmese. But no, yeah, that's our project with that. I really like what Volta does to certain things, especially with like seeing like super crazy patterns in a giant, like more of a bigger snake. I think is just a lot cooler because there's more canvas to paint at it. Yeah.
So to kind of elaborate a little bit on your 3 to 4 gene animal, you know, preference, you know, I was just talking about this the other day. So, you know, when I got into ball python breeding, you know, what got me into it was, you know, at this time, World of Ball Pythons had that app you could download on your phone, and there was like 7,000 plus morphs on there, and you know, you're looking through them and you're like, holy shit, you know. And I'm like, you know, I want to buy some morphs. I want to make some pretty animals, you know. And so I bought a couple single gene, you know. I bought a single gene pastel, which is still in my collection, you know, and she'll probably never leave here. But We were talking the other day about, some of the morphs now versus 7 years ago when I got into this. Like it's unreal. 8 years ago when I was looking through ball python morphs, you very rarely seen anything more than a 3 or 4 gene.
Right.
And now you're seeing 6, 7 genes. Possibly 8, depending on if they got a head, or whatever. And my goal as a breeder was never to chase that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
There's breeders out there.
Like.
There's breeders out there that are so far ahead of the average breeder right now that it's a pipe dream. You're never going to catch up to that. I don't care how much time, how much money you invest, you're never going to catch up to their achievements. So at the end of the day, my breeding projects are, what do I want to produce? It's not what Joe down the road wants to produce. It's what do I want to produce? And a lot of the animals I've produced, they've been produced thousands of times over, but I don't care, because at the end of the day, that's my animal.
Yep.
I produce that. Like with the VPI Xanthic clowns, that's been my dream for the last 3 years, to produce a VPI Xanthic clown. And this year I'm on schedule to possibly produce 3 clutches of them, and it's possibly super pastel VPI Xanthic clowns. But
that'd be pretty cool.
My goal was never to chase after what the other
somebody
guys
else is doing.
My goal is to chase after, what do I want to do in the next year? What do I want to produce in the next 5 years? It doesn't matter. It can be a single gene. It could be an 8 gene animal. At the end of the day, there's always a buyer for that animal, whether it's a single gene, triple gene, 8 gene. There's always a buyer. I go to reptile shows and vend, and, you get those new keepers that come to your table, and they're not interested in that $5,000 animal. They're interested in that $200 animal you have, because they're just getting started and they don't want to invest $5,000. So I want to have it. I want my table to be a market for everybody. I don't want my table to only be, well, you can't buy from me unless you have $5,000 or $10,000.
Right.
I want it to, everybody can walk up to my table and there's something there for everybody.
Yep.
So, kind of just my take on it. I see a lot of people chasing after that pipe dream, and that's just never been my thing.
And that leads me to like another thing. Like there's people that I see to this day, and I'm sure you've seen it time and time again, where people get into this thinking they're going to make, tons and tons of money, and that's not the case. They don't realize that this is a lot of work. There's a lot of money that goes into this, and then you're not going to see a profit or a return on this in years at all, if you see one at all.
And here's the thing, by the time I buy substrate every month for all my snakes, I buy rat feed, I pay my electric bill, I'm lucky to break even every month.
No.
But I'm not here because I think I'm going to become a millionaire off of this. I do this because it's a personal passion for me. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy working with animals. And if I never produced another baby ball python in my life, I have accomplished what I set out to do. And that was to prove to myself that I could do it. And I've done it.
I get it. 100%.
As trivial as that sounds, I've done it. I've produced what I've made baby ball pythons. That's what I wanted to do.
No, and for sure. And like the biggest mistake I see people do is they buy so many so fast, and they think that buying more quantity than quality is their best interest. And then maybe a year, 2 years, hell, even 3 years down the line, they're just still pouring money into these animals,
or they're selling out because it didn't pan out the way they thought it was going to.
And that's what I was getting at, is that they just sell out because they're not making the money that they say they thought they were going to make. It's too time consuming. It's too this. It's too that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Over half of my collection of ball pythons came from people selling out. And I mean, I'm not ashamed to say it. These people paid these expensive ass prices for all of these animals. Now, do I hate or do I want? Did I want to see them fail? No.
No.
But in the reality, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Nope.
You can give somebody all the information they need. You can warn them. You can help them. You can do anything. But at the end of the day, it is up to that person to listen to your advice or not. And most of those people that don't last that long listen to absolutely no one until they said, fuck it, we're done. Everything's for sale. And then they lose all that time, all that money, everything they put into those animals. I know a buddy of mine that just picked up 3 Freedom Breeder racks full of ball pythons. And I kid you not, he paid $2,000 for it because the dude wanted it gone that day. Those racks alone were over $2,000.
Oh yeah, I've got ARS right here behind me.
Yeah,
that I paid for. You know, I went in debt to buy those racks.
Nope.
But I worked my ass off to pay those credit cards off.
Right.
But it's what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? It was
I
kind of like one of those things. I didn't need it, but I wanted it. And I found a way to make it happen. But at the end of the day, have I sold enough ball pythons to pay for those racks? Fuck no, I haven't. Have I produced $5,000 animals? Fuck no, I haven't. But I've done what I want to do. You know, it's always been about what I want to do, not about what Joe down the road here is doing, because I don't care what Joe down the road here is doing. I give you mad props because you're completely mind-blowing the reptile community every time you post a picture of the newest morph you've produced. I get that. And some people chase that, but I don't chase that.
Nope. I see people go into debt and lose a lot of reptiles trying to chase that.
Because I'll tell you right now, my entire collection back here is paid for. I don't owe anybody nothing for that.
Yep.
You know, my racks are paid for.
If I can't buy it, I'm not doing a payment plan. That's the way I see it. Like if I can't outright buy it, then I don't need it.
And I've had people tell me, well, why don't you just go buy a visual? Well, why the fuck would I buy a visual and pay $5,000 and go in debt when I can buy a het and produce a visual 5 years down the road? I'm not in a hurry, you know?
Right.
I'm not chasing that. Got to be ahead of this guy. I don't give a shit if this guy's produced it 500 times over. You know, at some point, I'm going to reach that goal. And I understand with this het sunset I bought. There's guys that's been in the sunset game for 7-8 years. I'm just getting started. I haven't produced the first baby from him yet. But down the road, I will. Down the road, I will. So
this chair is going to give out on me one of these times. I just slightly move and it starts creaking like that. That was a scary sound.
You know, the VPI Xanthics that I have in my collection are ones I produced. I bought a het male, and he was from a trusted breeder in California, and he was possibly het pied as well, which he has never proved out pied, which I didn't give a shit because I bought him for the VPI gene.
Right.
And ironically, one of my friends that moved to Florida from Indiana started breeding ball pythons when they got to Florida, realized it's not my thing, and basically liquidated their entire stock. Well, she had one female left that she said was possibly het VPI because that's what it was sold to her as. She didn't know the breeder, didn't know the background on it, asked me if I wanted it, and I'm like, yeah, fuck it, I'll take it. So one of her friends went to Florida to visit, brought the snake back to Ohio because that's where they're from, and I met them an hour from home to pick up this snake. I had no background on this snake. She looked like a fucking normal when I got her. Brought her home. Wasn't even breeding size yet. You know, it took me 1.5 years to get her up to breeding size. And I paired her up with the VPI male that I had, not knowing if she's het or not. I'm like, well, it'll prove or it won't. First clutch, 3 visuals.
Nice.
You know, so it's just one of those right place, right time, luck of the draw.
No, for sure.
I still have 2 of those females in my collection from that first clutch. And they're single gene VPI. They're nothing more, nothing less. There's no head in there. There's no nothing. They're visual VPIs. But I like them. They're cool.
Yeah. And I commend you on doing that. I love the mentality you have. I commend you on chasing your dream on doing that. It's something I wish I seen more in this hobby.
And that's
because
the thing, you know,
everybody
wants to be
I don't want to say everybody. A lot of the people that I see, like the newer keepers, is I'm trying to be better than this person. I'm trying to be better than that person. I'm trying to be ahead of this person. I've been doing this for 18 years. And the reason that I don't have a Patreon and I don't have all this stuff is I give my knowledge out freely. If you want to breed what I'm breeding, I'll help you get to that point. I love to see you do it.
What works for me may not work for you, but I'll give you advice all day. I can't tell you it's going to work, but at the end of the day, at least I'll have that conversation with you and we'll be on the same page. And if there's questions down the road, you can come back to me. We can revisit this conversation, you know?
For sure. And it's like something like so one of our sponsors that was shown in the beginning of this video, Geeky Gecko Creations. Now, he's a leopard gecko breeder for the most part. He breeds ball pythons, and he wanted to get into something big. And so he got a hold of me, and he wanted to get into tegus. Now, I am one of the larger breeders of tegus out here. Now, there are some that have more higher end tegus. I have probably the most in a collection, but they have more higher end. So I have quantity over quality. They have quality over quantity on that aspect. But the reason I have a ton of black and whites, that's what I like working with. I like working with them, and then I wholesale. So I have no problem getting rid of 50 plus babies in
and you don't have to worry about them being low end, because the majority of people buying tegus aren't buying them for breeding. They're buying them because they want
just a cool pet. Yep.
They want a cool fucking pet. That's it.
Yep. And that's basically it. And so he asked me, he's like, oh, well, would you be willing to sell me some bigger ones? And I was like, yeah, I've got a lot of holdbacks that I can cut down on. I have over 40 adults. I probably should. Like, why not? So I let him go. And then he was like, okay, I'm going to push my luck a step further. Would you be willing to mentor me on breeding them and how to brumate and everything else? Because I don't know. And I was like, dude, I'll teach you. You know how many people lost their fucking mind when I told them that I was
for your knowledge?
Yeah, like I didn't charge him nothing. Everybody was like, you're not charging him. Why would you fund your competition? I was like, I don't see him as competition. I have my buyers. He's got his buyers. If we're selling in the same state, that's whatever. And then the way I saw it is, hey, if he produces a bunch of stuff and takes off with it, I feel better because my knowledge and my time helped him achieve what he wanted to do. And that just makes me feel better.
And you know, Marion, here's the big picture. Okay. So knowledge is free. Okay.
Yep.
I can go to the library and get a book. I can read up on it, and it's going to give me certain highlights and certain, you know, peaks and valleys of how to do something. Okay. Yep. But going to somebody that has experience with it is second to none. Like you can't read that in a fucking book. Okay. So I have a conversation with somebody today. Who's to say 10 years down the road that they don't have a success story as part of what we talked about? And they're like, you know, the person that gave me that knowledge gave it to me free, wasn't an asshole about it, and didn't charge me money for it. You know, that's kind of where I'm at. You know, I don't charge my kids when they ask me for parenting advice. You know what I'm saying? Why the hell would I? Why would I charge you to help promote what I'm passionate about?
Yep. And that's the way it should be. And that's 100%. That's the way it should be. And the way, and I know I might get some heat off of this at some point, but the way I see Patreon now, yes, if you're doing some exclusive content where you're opening your own stuff or like you're doing things like that, yeah, Patreon's cool. But if there are some people that I don't get along with just for this fact, okay? The fact is they legitimately like, oh, you want me to teach you how to do what I'm doing? Then you're going to pay to be on my Patreon, and I'll teach you all day. But
I compare this to OnlyFans. Why would I pay a chick for OnlyFans when Pornhub is free?
Yep, 100%.
I mean, at the end of the day, why would I pay a chick for OnlyFans when Pornhub is free?
Yep, and that's a fact. That's 100% a fact. And that's why we're pushing for YouTube. Is I want to get more education out there. You know, yeah, we do our vlogs where we're going out and we're doing private tours of zoos and facilities and things like that, and we're shedding light on certain places that people have never even heard of. But it's always educational, is the way I try to do it. And so I try to bring more education into a lot of the videos, because you can go on YouTube all day and look up, you know, ball python eats rat, or you know, this guy had this animal. But when it comes to how-to care videos, or like, you know, just people talking about genetics of what would go well with this, or hey, I mean, you know, there's a ton of new breeders that have no idea what genetics cannot go together that would cause like lethal issues. Like there's a ton of them, and nobody knows. Like there was one kid that was live on Instagram yesterday, and he was talking about he wanted to breed this spider. It was a Mojave spider to a pastel lesser Enchi spider. Now I'm like, hey, if you do this, this is the issue you're going to run into. I didn't want to tell him, hey, don't do that. That's bad. Like, somebody tells me not to do it, I'm probably going to do it just to fucking do it. But I told him, like, hey, this is what's going to happen if you do it. I've done it before just to say, hey, I wanted to learn that experience firsthand. I wanted to know what was going to happen, because if somebody tells me this is going to happen and that I don't know that person, I don't trust that person, how am I supposed to be like, hey, I'm going to repeat this to somebody else? So I did it once, and I did it once, and we produced an all-white snake. It didn't come out alive, but it was an all-white snake. And it happened three snakes. One didn't, the egg went bad, and I cut it open, and it was all deformed, but it was an all-white snake. And then the next one was had no eyes, but it was an all-white snake, but still didn't come out either. And the last one was perfect, all-white, perfect-looking snake, black eyes, and didn't come out. Just didn't come out and died in the egg. And I don't know if it had something to do with the egg tooth, or it just died due to like internal deformities. But after that, I was like, okay, what people are telling me is true on this. So then I must be able to pass this on to somebody else.
Right.
And so when I told him that, he had no idea. And he's been breeding for, I think, 4 or 5 years is what he was telling me. And he's never heard it talked up in a video before. He's never had anybody correct him about it before. Nothing. Even everybody in his chat never heard that spider to spider was lethal. And it was just insane that these conversations aren't being had anymore. Well, and so people are learning firsthand.
Because everybody wants paid for everything. Yep. You know, they want paid for their knowledge. They want paid for their time. They want paid for, you know, whatever the case may be. You know, I'm an open book. You know, if I can help the next guy out, you know, and return the favor that somebody gave me 8 years ago that wasn't an asshole and didn't want my money, they just wanted to help me get started, you know, I'm going to pay it forward every time.
Yep.
You know, and I go to shows and I set prices on my animals, you know, and I probably have lowballed myself a few times, you know, but at the end of the day, if I have a little 8-year-old kid walk up to my table with his mom and he really wants his snake, but it's $150 and his budget's $120, I'm going to sell that snake to him for $120. You know, I might sell it to him for $80, you know, if I'm feeling generous that day. It's not about me getting rich off of it. I enjoy doing it. And at the end of the day, I've got enough snakes at home. I don't need to bring them back home with me.
When we vended that Pomona show, I got so much shit for this. But there was a kid and his mom that were buying for his birthday. Now, this is, like I said, the birthday, his first reptile. That's what he wanted. I kid you not. I was like, okay, the tanks are not mine. The tanks are JTK's. If you buy that tank, that 10-gallon will be just fine for a leopard gecko. This is how I set it up. This is what I have for him behind the table. Buy all this. Here's a free gecko. Take it home.
And you made that kid's fucking day, dude.
Oh, hell, dude, this kid was so excited. Like, he hugged me like 3 times. So happy. And it made me happy. I didn't care. Like, maybe it was $100 gecko. That's great. But the happiness that kid had, and the mom, like, you know, she was so appreciative. Like, I would have given her the whole set if it was all my stuff. That tank wasn't mine. The some of the stuff that was behind the table wasn't mine. So I was like, hey, this is what you need to have for this animal. If you have the money to buy all this stuff right now, I know you can then take care of this animal. Here you go. And the kid was sitting there. He's done his research. Like, he was sitting there telling me how he would take care of it, who he watches on YouTube, and like how things are, like, you know, done. What to do if he sees like this, what to do for that. So I gave him my business card, and I gave him my one of my sponsors' business cards. I'm like, okay, this is for this guy does nothing but leopard geckos. This is majorly what he produces or puts on YouTube. He does a lot of how-to care videos. If you have any questions, if you want, you can look up on YouTube and see if they have it on his channel. This is who I recommend. If he doesn't have it, or if he doesn't have there, message me. Here's my card. You can message me. My phone number's on there. My email's on there. Everything is on there. Social media platforms, the whole 9 yards. And I told her, I was like, if he has any questions, you have any questions, I don't care if it's 3 a.m. I don't care what time it is. Text me, and I will get back to you as soon as possible.
Yep.
And I've heard from him twice already. And it was just updates.
You know, you can text me at 2 a.m. I'm probably not going to answer you at 2 a.m., but I'll get back to you when I can, you know?
Yep.
But that's the thing, man. Like, the breeders now are the breeders that are basically setting it up for the next generation of breeders. I'm not going to do this forever. You know, at some point, I'm going to get too old, and it's going to be passed on to the next person.
Yep.
But any knowledge that I can pass along, you bet your ass I'm going to.
Yep.
Even if it's at the expense that I'm not making any money off of it, you know, because like I said, that whole collection back there is paid for. I'm not losing anything.
Yep.
But I could produce babies and give them away, and what am I out? Really? I'm not out anything other than the money I have and the invested in electric, substrate, and my time. What's my time worth? I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to keep snakes, whether I'm selling them and breeding them or whether I'm just keeping them because I like them, you know?
Did you see your friend's comment?
I've given snakes away out of my collection, you know? Crabtree down there. A few years back, I had like 3 or 4 yellow bellies, females, that were just sitting in the rack. And I'm like, hey, dude, come down here and get one of these. You know?
Yeah, he put a big comment about you in the chat. That's why I just put it up on the screen for you so you can see it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Dustin is second to none, man. Like, I've been in it a few years longer than him. I mean, he's built up a pretty nice collection. And, you know, I mean, we hit it off right off the rip. You know, we're both into ball pythons. We both pretty much listen to the same podcast. You know, we're actually going to Tinley together in March. I mean, It's one of those one of those bromances that kind of just blossomed out of nowhere. You know, I didn't know him prior to, and the funny part is, years ago, I ran around with some of the people that he ran around with, and I don't know how our paths never crossed years ago, but I mean,
it's funny how that works, because I have the same thing with a buddy of mine that I just recently met him last year, and we lived literally next to each other for a long time, like down the road from each other, long time. New people that, you know, literally same groups, everything. Never ran into each other. Finally started talking over my son, and I consider him like a brother of mine. My kids consider him as his uncle. His kids consider me as his uncle or their uncle. Like, it's crazy how that works. It's just insane. Actually, a funny story about that is my daughter did that thing today. I don't know if you saw our live earlier.
I was on there for a minute and I had shitty connection. Like it
it was boring as hell, but it was just funny to me. So my daughter had this. It was her first ever like stage performance for the school. So you know how like the school tries to do that like Pride Week type thing where it's like, you know, you're a leader, you're supposed to be confident, things like that. So they sing a song, and she's in first grade, so this is their first time ever doing that. And so she's up there doing this song and dance, and she does not know any of the words, has no idea what she's doing up there. They're going left, and she's going right, doing the wrong movement, almost knocking out the kid to her or from each side of her. And so I'm laughing about that. Well, the whole school had to come out, and so they all go to the same school. My niece and nephew go to that school. So it's funny because my niece runs up to me, and I give her a hug, and you know, she kind of like, she tried to punch me in the neck. So like I looked around, make sure there's no teachers looking, I punched her in the neck. And all her friends are like, "Oh my God, that adult beat you!" And she's like, "Oh, that's my uncle." They're like, "Oh, okay, that's fine then. Like you're used to this, whatever." Yeah, like everybody's like, "Oh yeah, that's fine then, whatever." And so then they walk off, and then my nephew comes out, and he sees me, gives me a hug, and we kind of just laughed, and then I was making fun of his hair, and so he walked off. Well, he had a bunch of group of kids around him. They're like, "Who the hell is that?" He's like, "Oh, that's my uncle." Mind you, I'm 6'1", Mexican. He's like 4 foot something. I'm gonna say he's like maybe 5'2", if that. He's a skinny little white boy. There is no resemblance there at all. And they're like, "That's not your uncle." He's like, "No, that's my uncle." And they're like, "No, it's not." Like, who the hell is that guy? Like, everybody's like giving him shit. And it was funny because he hangs out with a couple of Mexican girls. And so when he came back by, because like the assembly was over, he like gut punched me. So like I pushed him over, and so he started laughing. Well, as he goes towards the door to like head in there, I see him pointing at me, and there's like a group of kids around him, and they're looking at him, and then they're looking at me, and they're like, "How the hell are you this small?" And he's like, "That tall, and that's your uncle." And like they're just giving him shit. He's like, "That's my uncle." And like they were just giving him so much shit about it. I was like, well, he's gonna have a fun rest of the day. I'm going home. And I just thought it was funny as hell. He was just sitting there. He's like, I gotta call him to see how that all went down. But I just thought it was hilarious.
So my wife and I, not together, so don't like freak out, because everybody always freaks out when I tell them this. So my wife and I, we have 9 kids between the two of us.
Holy shit.
So we have 7 girls and 2 boys. And
so are you trying to start a football team? Or no,
we had a baseball team at one time when they were all living at home. So over the course of the last 13 years, you know, 5 of the 9 have moved out and started families of their own. And now we have 3 grandkids, you know,
nice.
And I'm going to tell you what, like having grandkids is nothing like having kids. Like it's a whole different kind of love. It's a whole different kind of everything, you know,
right.
Shit that I would whip my kids' ass for. Like my grandkids, I'm like, it's okay, baby. You know, and my kids are like, oh, Dad, you would have never let us get by with that. And I'm like, well,
It's because I like them more. No.
So, I get it, man. Like, I told my wife, I said, I'm telling you right now, if we ever survive raising all these kids and getting them the fuck out of this house, we're going to write a book, because it's going to be like Parenting for Dummies, or because, I mean, any possible scenario you could think of involving raising children, I've been through it at some point.
It's funny. Let's see. So we've been live for 2 hours, so I feel bad at this point, taking up a lot of your time.
Nah, man, you're good.
So I only got a couple questions left.
Sure.
So what is your most anticipated pairing or hatching for this season?
So I've got Het, Pastel, VPI, Clown. Well, they're Pastel, Het, VPI, Het, Clown, female. I have a normal Het, VPI, Het, Clown, female. Actually, I have 2 of those, and then I've got a Pastel, Het, VPI, Het, Clown, male. So they've all locked up at least twice. So I'm hoping for at least one clutch.
That'd be pretty cool.
I'm really pushing for the Super Pastel VPI. Clown.
That is actually really cool.
And then I'm just basically, this season is kind of an off season for me, really. I'm just focusing on some projects personally, and whatever I produce out of that, they'll go to the shows and get sold. But my main focus this year is building up my Het Ultramel collection, because I've got an Ultramel female and an Inchy Ultramel male that I bought at Tinley last year.
Okay.
And the male, he just started locking with a couple females this year. And the female, she just hit breeding size. She's had a couple locks. I don't know if she's going to go this year. And I'm really not, going to be disappointed if she doesn't. But I've paired her up a couple times and she's locked. So I'm hoping to at least get some Het Ultramel stuff this year that I can start growing up for some future projects. But I mean, really, this year I don't really have any goals other than the VPI clowns that I've been working with.
I'm excited to see that. If you hit those, you gotta let me know. For sure, gotta let me know. I want to see it.
Dude, they're amazing. Like I've looked at them on Google and Morph Market, and I'm like, man, they're fucking phenomenal. Just the pattern and the color contrast, and that clown it just makes everything pop on that VPI. And I haven't seen a Super Pastel form yet, but I'm sure they're out there. I'm not going to be the first one to ever produce them, but personally, that's my goals for the year. And I did have my first clutch of eggs 2 weeks ago, and it's just a simple pairing. It's a single gene fire female to a single gene fire male. He's 100% Het Clown. So, I mean, the babies will all be at least 50% Het Clown, and hoping for maybe a super fire female out of that just for my collection.
Just for the hell of it.
Just because I almost bought a super fire female at Tinley back in 2018, and I left the table. The lady gave me a really, sweet deal on it. And I was like, I'll be back. And I went and walked around, and I came back, and it was fucking sold. And I was like, God damn it.
That's how it goes at expos. Like I told my wife, I was like, we are not, if I see something that I want and they give me a hell of a price for it, I don't care if there's another one down the way. If they, every time is how it goes for me. I go and see something cool that I really, really want, but I go look around, and by the time I come back, it's gone. Every time. So I told my wife, I was like, if I need it and I want it, I'm going to get it. Like, I'm not going to continue. Like, if it's a deal that I cannot pass up, I'm going to get it. And if I'm lucky enough and I get another deal that's even better, I'm going to get another one just for the hell of it, because 2 is always better than 1.
I'm going to grab this Inchy Ultramel male real quick and show you
Sure. I'm going to solo you out so we can see it better. Oh, look at that.
So he's got a little bit of stuck shed on his head. He just shed the other day, and I didn't realize his substrate was as dry as it was. So tomorrow he's going to go in a humidity box and finish getting that shed off of him. But dude, his color is just phenomenal.
Wow, look at the contrast of orange on that. That is beautiful. But now that's just a pastel ultramel?
This is an Enchi ultramel. So he is actually locked up with my Enchi Fire female. So I'm hoping for some super Enchi het ultramels out of him. Because those would definitely
gorgeous.
Be holdback. Because I want to see the super form of this. Like, just the single gene Enchi and the ultramel, man. It just, like, you cannot believe how bright this orange is in person. Like, this camera doesn't do shit. Like
that's how it be sometimes. Cameras are terrible to pick up stuff when you're trying to do it live. Like the live view of that animal, and then you post a picture of it is night and day.
Right. Yeah, he's absolutely amazing.
That is gorgeous color.
But he's right at, I don't know, probably 700 grams, maybe a little more. And
he's good to go.
Yeah, he's had a couple locks this year, so we'll see.
That is awesome. And he is beautiful.
But yeah, like I said, man, I don't really have like any major goals this year. I don't know. I'm just kind of
like an off year for you.
Like I'm excited about breeding season and stuff, because I mean that never gets old. But as far as like producing anything phenomenal this year, probably not. But at the end of the day, I mean they're all phenomenal to me. I don't give a shit if it's normal. I think some of the normals are just as pretty as some of these 6, 7, 8 gene morphs.
Oh no, I agree. There are some normals that we've labeled as normals that are just beautiful. And I mean, there's some people who are like, oh, that's a dinker. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. No, it's just a normal. It's just a really good looking normal.
And I'll get a picture of that. The female I have that I think is Volta. I'll get a picture of her head and send it to you. Like, dude,
for sure.
She's massive. I get her out, but she's in shed right now, so I don't really want to bother her.
So I've only got 4 more questions for you.
Sure.
Is your phone on the charger? I have to ask because if it's not, your phone may end up dying because the StreamYard kills phones like no.
I'm on my laptop, man.
Oh, even better. I would say because I use my phone, so it makes life so much easier for me. Okay, so what is your goal as a breeder?
My goal as a breeder is to educate future breeders. I mean, that's probably the simplest way to put it. Like, I know how to breed snakes. I mean, it's a given. I've produced clutches since 2015. I know how to do it.
Right.
But there's people out there that don't know how to do it. And they're looking to people like me. And I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I have a system that works for me. And my goal is to educate those that don't know how so that they do know how, because at the end of the day, as a breeder, if we never teach or pass along the knowledge that we have, at some point, the hobby's going to die out.
Yep.
Because people are going to lose interest in it. They're going to get to the point where they're like, we don't want to be like them reptile breeders. They're fucking assholes. They don't want to teach us anything. They don't want to help us with anything. They don't want to give us any information. And my goal is to help as many people as I can to do what I do.
I like it. I have another question that touches base on that, but it's after this one. So, if you had the chance, all permits needed, experience to own one or a pair of any reptile, what would it be and why?
Oh man, alligators. I've wanted an alligator since I was a little kid, and years ago, before Ohio put a ban on crocodilian species, when I was a kid, there was a guy in my hometown. His nickname was Poncho, and honestly, I can't even tell you what his real name was. But he was one of these. I don't want to say mountain men, so to speak, but like he lived off the land. The guy had probably the most extensive arrowhead collection you've ever seen in your fucking life. I mean, this guy hunted arrowheads for years, and he had turtle shells, and I mean, you name it, this guy had it in his house, and he had a fucking alligator that lived in his house.
That's what I want.
Ever since I was a kid and seen that alligator, I'm like, I want one of those. And then Ohio said, no, you can't have one. But I could move to Indiana right next door, and there's no restriction on keeping alligators. As a matter of fact, I vended a show in Indiana last weekend, and the guy that hosts that show, puts on that show, had baby American alligators on his table for sale. And I'm like, fuck, man. Why you got to tease me like that? I can't buy it back to Ohio.
Bring that back to the to Facebook groups. I wonder if that was the show. Did he have like tanks stacked that had them in there or no?
I don't know. I don't think so.
So there was a show where this guy brought American alligators, smooth front caiman, and a few other crocodilian species to an expo. And this Facebook group tore this guy apart for bringing them to an expo. Like as if it's that bad that he brought them to an expo. It's like trying to say that it's it was as bad as if somebody was like starting an expo that had nothing but beginner reptiles and somebody brought a whole table full of venomous. Like that is the way they treated this guy. Like it was ridiculous how bad they tore him apart just because he brought crocodilians to an expo. Like it wasn't like the dude was like, "Hey, little Timmy, here's a freaking baby alligator that's gonna get 16 foot." Like,
but here's the argument I make. Okay, every single time somebody says, "Well, why would you own an alligator? Why would you want an alligator? That's ridiculous." Blah blah blah. Okay, well, why do you want a dog? Why do you want a cat? There's people out there that I wouldn't even consider good dog keepers or cat keepers. So to label or put everybody under the same umbrella and say, oh, well, this guy over here didn't keep his alligator correctly, so therefore you're an irresponsible owner too. No. If you keep your dog in a kennel 20 hours out of the day and only let him out to use the bathroom and eat, and he goes right back in the kennel in the house, you're a shitty dog keeper.
Yep.
My dog doesn't spend all day in a kennel. I mean, he's in a kennel when I'm at work because obviously I don't want him tearing the shit out of my house or getting into stuff he's not supposed to. But at the end of the day, that's for his own safety, not mine. That's so he's not his own worst enemy,
Yep.
Because he could chew up wires, he could ingest something while I'm at work and, be dead when I get home. In his kennel, I know where he's at. He gets let out before I leave for work. And when I get home, he's out of the kennel until the next morning when I go to work. But there's people that keep their dogs in kennels all day. But to put everybody under the same umbrella and say, well, because this guy was a shitty alligator keeper, everybody that keeps alligators is a shitty keeper. That's bullshit.
Not 100%. Nope, I get it. And that's the thing that sucks about like Arizona is I've been trying for so long to get my permit, to be able to have our zoological permit for crocodilians. That's what I want. I want crocodilians. Now, I want to take it a step further. There are some species of crocodilian that are endangered. And the more, what is the best way to put this? The more that we have people willing to have them, house them, and attempt to breed them, as long as everything's on the up and up, it does nothing but help the animal and it helps the species.
Here's the thing. How many times has captive breeding prevented the extinction of an animal?
A ton.
A lot.
Yep. The condor, there's tons. Even the
bald eagles,
the rhinos, tons of them. Reptile wise as well.
Dude, years ago, you didn't see bald eagles in Ohio. I mean, it was fucking unheard of. There's like 7 or 8 bald eagle nests right around my house now, And as a kid,
I will have one of those days. Sorry, I saw your buddy's comment.
Oh, Borneo earless monitors.
I got to hold one over at Brian's store, JTK Reptiles. Dream come true. Now I need one.
You know what? I want a sailfin dragon, dude.
I almost had a bunch.
Oh,
I almost had 6 of them, but they were imports, and they had too much problems with them and didn't make it. Not even a month after being shipped over.
What the hell was the dinosaur that had the big fucking sail on their back? Dimitri?
Or some shit? Yeah, Spinosaurus.
No. Was it? I thought it started with a D.
In Jurassic Park or Jurassic Park?
No. This was just
T-Rex.
No, this was just from reading books as a kid. They looked like a lizard, but they had a really high fin. Like Dimitриodon or some shit. I don't remember. But anyway,
where's my daughter? She would know this.
That's what those sail fins remind me of. Like, that's probably the closest I'd ever come to owning a fucking dinosaur. And I mean, I'd like to own a dinosaur. I want a fucking velociraptor, but it's not possible,
Right. And we want to get there are like almost jet black sail fins. And
with the blue eyes.
And there,
is like fucking
there was
amazing.
2 of them out of the 6 that came over, and I almost took all 6, but they had to pass the quarantine because they didn't look great when they came over, and I was like, hey, I'm cool with paying the price that you're asking. The issue that I have here is they're imports.
I want healthy animals if I'm paying the price.
And that's what I told them. I was like, they're imports. So with imports, they're like F3s. Like they're not store ready, but they're worth if you put the time and effort into them, they're good to go. But it was import wholesale, so I was paying a fraction of what they were worth. Let's put it this way: I was paying $200 for a sailfin.
Holy shit!
Yeah. So, but they didn't make it because the parasites were just too bad, and they gave them the medications and everything they needed to fight the parasites and everything, but it was already too far gone by the time they started even doing treatments. So the animals just didn't make it out of the first month of them being in stateside. So it went down the drain. I know there was just an import of sail fins that just came over this last week. And that's where a ton of people are starting to post sail fins right now because that's where they just bought them because they just got imported, right? Like literally just came in like 2 weeks ago. Like there was a shipment 2 weeks ago, and then there was a shipment last week. So that's why like sail fins are everywhere right now. A lot of like the higher end breeders or stores have them.
I'm not set up to have one at this point in time, but I mean down the road,
if
I was looking at a lizard species, that's definitely one that I would consider.
Yeah, they're really cool animals. Something we're trying to do. We try to do a little of everything. Like I don't want to say I want a zoo, but I want a zoo.
I mean, I gotta commend you, dude. You work with venomous, and that's completely out of my realm.
You know, it's
Like,
funny. Like I keep looking over, and it's not that I'm being like I'm ignoring you or anything. It's I'm surrounded by venomous. There's
and see, that's
an
not my
Arizona
thing.
black right here to my right, to my left, sidewinders. Next to those, Atrox. Above that, blue speckled. So, and
You
then
know,
next to
they're
those,
great to look
Mojave
at.
green. Like they're all over the place. I'm surrounded.
They're great to look at, but I'm just not one of those people that would ever consider keeping venomous. You know,
See, I love looking at them,
maybe
but it's
mildly venomous, like a fucking copperhead or something. But you
oh
know,
no, copperheads. I mean, they're mild, but they're not like it's still like it still sucks to get bit.
oh yeah, it sucks to get tagged by them, but you know,
I would do rear
dying, your chances of dying from a copperhead bite are greatly reduced.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's why I say get like for people that want to get into venomous, I always say either get a really young captive bred and born Atrox, Western or Crotalus Atrox, which is the Western Diamondback, or get something along that like a mild venom, but something that you can kind of handle that's not like super crazy. Like everybody, I see some people.
These people that handle like the black mambas, dude, that would scare the fuck out of me, dude.
Oh yeah, no. So I love venomous. Let's put it that way. I love venomous. I will handle almost any venomous ever. Tail them all, the whole 9 yards. The second you open any, I don't care if it's a green mamba, black mamba, I don't care what kind of mamba it is. I'm out. I will not be in the same room of that animal being out. And the reason is they're fast as fuck, and there's no way that I know for sure I cannot outmaneuver a mamba.
Dude, they're unpredictable too. Like,
yep.
I seen
the video 0 to 100 like that.
I seen the video where Brian Barczyk was raking one.
Raking him, yep.
On the ground. Dude, when he took the lid off that fucking trash can and that fucker come up out of there, I was like, oh, dude, I'd be gone.
So you watch Brian, so you may know him and I had a mutual friend. And he made a video about it. This dude used to milk venomous for like medications and stuff, like to make anti-venom, a whole bunch of stuff. He has milked this black mamba for years. And the one time he made a slip up and she just nicked his thumb, he was able to safely put her back in the enclosure and lock her up. And by the time he sat down, his brother was freaking out, and he told him like, "Hey, don't even bother. By the time everybody gets here, I'm gonna be dead." And dude, it was insane. And after that whole thing, like I used to talk to him all the time. He's a great guy, fantastic guy, really knowledgeable about venomous, really passionate about it. And something he had that he had milked for years got him right in the thumb, and it was just a small prick to his thumb, and done within that short time.
Like, what a fucking way to die, you know? Like,
it was a hell of a way to die. And it makes you appreciate what you're doing, especially when you're working with hots. Like you'll see some people, they'll pull out just pull like free handle and things like that. Now, I'm not against free handling. I'm not, I'm not against it as long as you know what you're doing. But if you're over here, trying to handle something that's continuously trying to bite you, then yeah, you're gonna get yourself hurt. You have the potential of getting yourself hurt. And on top of that, you're making it look bad for people that want to do that. Like, oh, hey, if he can handle that aggressive cobra, I can pick up a rattlesnake off the side of the road.
Well, and I had a guy argue with me at work one day. He's like, well, what's the most venomous snake in the world? I said, the one that just fucking bit you. And he's like, well, what's that supposed to mean? I said, venom's venom, dude. If you're envenomated, it doesn't matter if it was an inland taipan, if it was a black mamba, if it was a rattlesnake, copperhead. If you don't get treatment, Dead is dead, right?
It depends on the species, but yeah. Like
And he's
I like so like
oh yeah,
the
that
Aatrox.
kind of makes sense.
Aatrox, I've actually like the mild venomous. You're good. There's certain things where like so I've been bitten 6 times by Crotalus Aatrox, and it was mostly in my stupid teenager days and before. I was hiking and I either stepped on a bush that had one, I fell into a bush and sat on one. Um, there was quite a few of those incidences, and then also I've been bitten as an adult. Messed up thing is always my left leg. Yeah, and so so I now do not need anti-venom. If I was to get a full-on tag from a Crotalus Aatrox, I have natural antibodies in my that will actually fight the venom off as if it's just a common cold.
Yeah, like Tim Freed.
Yep. But I'm only specific to that specific venom strain. Not every venom strain is the same.
He was like immune to like 12 or 14 different species or something.
Oh yeah, he's like up there. Like he can take a bite from almost anything and be like,
dude, I think that guy will live forever.
Yeah. Yeah. That dude has like the key or like if he dies, I hope he donates his body to science because I want to know what the hell is keeping him up. There's so much venom in that dude's body that like he could take a bite from a cobra and be like, "Yep, I taste it. That was a good bite," and then just walk on with his day. Like, what the fuck, dude?
And it makes you got to wonder too. So, okay, my body has, natural immunity to venom, but long term, what is that doing to your body? That venom's got to go somewhere.
I think it breaks it down into because venom is protein. I don't know if you know that.
But I mean, until it breaks down and you excrete it out, what's it doing to your organs? What's it doing to your blood vessel walls? I mean, nobody really knows.
Yeah, no, that is really a good point because a lot of people don't know this, but you can drink venom,
yes,
and be just fine.
Yeah, as long as you don't have open cuts in your mouth.
Yep, as long as you have no open cuts in your intestines or anything like that, you can drink venom and be just fine. But if it hits the bloodstream,
break it down.
Yep, your stomach will break it down because all it is protein. That's why our venomous snakes do not want to waste venom because it takes so much time and energy and proteins and fats and stuff to actually make that venom.
Right.
That they do not want to waste it. So a lot of times when people get bit by certain venomous species out here, like the Aatrox or the Arizona black or anything, the speckled rattlesnakes, even twin spots, a lot of times when people get bit out here, it's a dry bite because they do not want to give out all that venom. Now, there are times when you royally piss this thing off or you found a really cantankerous one and it wants to give you the hurt juice and you're screwed. But it just depends on it depends on each animal. I mean, venomous are just, they're the same thing as working with constrictors. The only difference is a constrictor is going to bite you and wrap you. A venomous is going to bite you and back off and see what happens.
Wait for you to die, basically.
Yeah, like and that's its best thing. It's and a lot of times, like a lot of people don't know this, but for the Western Diamondback or most Crotalus species, the venom actually starts the digestive system in the rodent or whatever its prey item is. It will actually start breaking stuff down in the body to help it digest the prey item.
Well, it's
and
like
so
spiders.
That venom, yeah, just like spiders. And it's crazy. A lot of people didn't know that. And so it's not only to kill its prey, but it helps the digestive part as well. And there's so much with venom that's like, in medications. Like a lot of people don't know this, but the copperhead venom is actually a ingredient used to battle breast cancer.
Isn't there one that they use for like Botox or some shit?
Yeah, I heard something about that. It was like, I think it was a cobra. I think it was a certain cobra. I can't remember. I think it was on a
I
lapid.
remember hearing that something about snake venom being tied in with Botox or some shit. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's supposed to be something like that. There's so much that like different venoms that go into different medications to help. And so there's still so much that has yet to be tested. So there's so much that has yet to be tested and yet to be discovered with the medication side of venom. Like for instance, I've been bit by an Aatrox. I got bit in this hand. I have little to no feeling. Like I can feel with this hand that I'm touching this hand. This hand, I do not feel this hand with it. Like I lost a lot of nerves and feelings in this hand. And so a buddy of mine, a lot of you may know him, Quentin. He runs Venomous HQ. He was bitten, same thing, bit in the hand. Then he got bit by a cobra and actually had to go to the hospital. I died twice. Like he flatlined. And it was a complete accident. It wasn't free handling or anything. It was a feeding accident to a Chinese cobra. And he had to deal with that. But that bite from the cobra gave him all the feeling back in his hand.
That's fucking crazy.
So not only did it attack his body and everything else of that way, but it fixed his hand, the nerves in his hand. So it was fucked up because he told me, he's like, "Oh, hey, you ever want like feeling back in your hand? I had a Chinese cobra to bite you." Like, yeah, no, I don't want to die twice to get feeling back in my hand. I'll be all right.
I don't want a flat line.
Yeah, I'll be fine. I can go the rest of my life without feeling my hand. Oh, hey, yo, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat. Derek's Reptiles. Shout out to Derek's Reptiles, guys.
What's up, Derek?
Big podcast. Make sure to check them out if you guys aren't already checking them out. Huge supporter of the channel. Derek's a really cool dude. He actually helped me out with this channel a lot.
Derek's a good dude, man.
He is really good dude.
Derek's caught a lot of shit over some of his YouTube
feeding videos.
Channel.
Yeah.
Videos.
Nerd doesn't like Derek. It's okay.
At the end of the day, if you don't want to fucking watch it, don't watch it.
Yep.
We all have that choice.
Nerd doesn't like Derek, and it's okay because we like Derek, so it's all right.
At the end of the day, there's an audience for everything. I don't give a fuck what it is. There's an audience for it.
Derek reminds everybody every week too, or every few days, how much of that audience loves what he does. And I mean, I'd love seeing it, man. Every time, Derek is legitimately all over the place. He's got growing super fast. He's got tons of views already. I think he's in the millions of views. He's pretty close. I think he was at almost 30. I think he was up there in like 80,000 followers or something like that. Like he is blowing up. And so what Nerd did trying to bash him,
he's put in the fucking work. He deserves it.
Oh yeah, 100%. So he was a big mentor for us on here. And he actually really helped us out a lot trying to figure out certain things and to adjust different things on here on our YouTube channel, and he's helped us a lot. So I really appreciate him. I don't know if he actually saw this, but we just broke over 800 subs and we broke over 200,000 views just this last couple days, and we're fairly close to our 2,000 watch hours. So we're over halfway there to get monetized on YouTube. So we're pushing.
I tell everybody, man, stay on your fucking grind. It doesn't matter what other people think. Do you. Do what makes you happy. There's going to be an audience. There'll be an audience for your shit, man. Like, I don't do YouTube and all that shit because I don't have time to. I commend the ones that can do two or three
I
sets
have to
a
make
week.
time to
I
do
can't.
this. I have to clear out the end of the day and make time to do it, but it's worth it. I have a goal. It's a small goal for a bigger goal to take its place. Like
You
my
know,
goal
and
is to get monetized first. That first and foremost, I want to get monetized. My second
and I'll
goal
make
after
time to
that,
go on anybody's show.
I want a
You know,
plaque.
I'll make time to go on anybody's show. I just don't have time to host my own. Like
Right. Yeah, I
those are
know. I was
retirement.
there. I was there, Derek. I saw it, bro. I saw it,
Those are
and
retirement goals, man.
yeah, I saw your interview with Ozzy. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'll watch it later, Derek.
I was there. I didn't comment, but I was there. I watched the whole thing. I made sure to stay in the chat the whole time, but I was super busy, so I had you playing in the background. But I was there to support the homie. But no, so I only got a couple more questions for you because I know it's getting late over there.
Oh man, we're good. Fuck, I'm a night owl, dude.
So am I. 100%. So this was the one that I was really excited to ask you, and I'm mostly excited with a lot of people to ask this. So if you had advice for someone wanting to get into breeding, what would your advice be to them?
Okay, this is a good question because I've actually been asked this a few times, and here's the mistake I made. Okay, and this is a personal mistake, and it's nothing I did wrong. It just, looking back, hindsight's 2020. So would I have done things differently? Absolutely. So my advice to people wanting to breed: one, preparation. Read every fucking article you can read on the species you're wanting to breed. Make sure you have the right equipment. Make sure you're set up for incubation. Make sure you pay your electric bill because you don't want your electric getting shut off halfway through incubation. These
Valid.
are on the other side of that. Don't impulse buy. Find a project that you're seriously considering working at and buy the animals that are going to produce that project. More times than not, I see people coming into the reptile breeding industry and they're impulse buying. Oh, I got to have that one. Oh, I got to have that one. Oh, I got to have that one. They buy all these animals up and then, yeah, I'm sitting on 100 animals, but what the fuck am I going to do with them? I don't really have any plans. Like I hadn't thought that far ahead. And that's kind of where I messed up. When I first got into buying snakes, dude, I was buying snakes just because I was buying snakes, and I'm like, at some point running out of room, and I'm like, what is it I want to focus on? So I scaled back. I got rid of a bunch of the shit that I wasn't using or didn't need for projects. And my focus now is these projects. So the best information I can give you, or the best advice I can give you as a new breeder: impulse buying. In the long run, you're going to wish you would have saved that money and invested it in a few good quality animals versus a bunch of shit you're not going to use. And secondly, being prepared. Like I told you, man, my first clutch of eggs, I didn't even have a fucking incubator. I had to run to Walmart at 10 o'clock at night and buy a cooler. And thank God I had some heat tape laying around and a thermostat that I could wire up. YouTube saved my life. You guys that are doing these YouTube videos and shit, people like us that don't do YouTube, we commend you guys because it's people like you that saved my ass. If somebody hadn't have made a video and said, you know what, I'm going to show people how to make a fucking incubator out of a pop cooler, I would have lost my first clutch of eggs,
Right.
So at the end of the day, being prepared, you've got to be prepared.
I appreciate that, Fry. Shout out to Fry's Critters. Big supporter of the channel. Also one of our sponsors, guys. Make sure to check him out. Appreciate all the support he gives us. Great guy. But no, yeah, that's real. I love that you said it that way because when I asked this question, a lot of people most knowingly and a lot subconsciously not knowing, when they answer this, it's as if they're talking to their past self.
Oh, I do.
What they
Man,
would have done different if they had the chance.
I look back on all the money I spent on low-end animals, and I'm like, you know what? If I would have just saved that money and invested in a couple high-quality animals right out the fucking gate, you know, my whole project goal would have been completely different, you know.
Right.
But I bought a bunch of low-end shit, and I'm like, well, I got to work with what I got now because I've spent all my money, you know. So
that's why I tell everybody, quality in, quality out.
exactly, you know,
That's
that's what
the
it's all
best
about
way to
now.
put it. You buy
Like
low end stuff and you buy a bunch of low end and you put them together, you're gonna make something a little bit better. But at the end of
it's
the
still low
day,
end.
is it worth putting in for two of those for the price of what you would have been paying for something that was a little more higher quality?
Yep.
And that's something I try to preach to a lot of people, because I see that so much is there's just single gene snakes that are, priced fairly decent, like I mean, okay, I'm gonna sound terrible about this, but most people won't bat an eye at $150 Enchi ball python female.
Oh,
I will bat an eye. I will be like, what the hell? Because
yep.
I don't pay store prices. I pay wholesale prices. So I pay a quarter of that, if not half of that. So when somebody's like, hey, you want this really nice looking Enchi female 200 grams for $150? That's a beautiful snake. I don't want it. Because I can get one for a quarter of that. And so it's a no-brainer for me. But I always tell people, for that $150 you're spending on that, why not hold off instead of buying that $150 animal, save up some more, maybe even double it, and get something better.
Yep,
even if it's not a
absolutely.
female. Get a multi. And that's the most common thing I see, is people try to buy 4 or 5 gene females and then breed them to a 2 gene male. Now I'm the opposite. I will buy single gene, triple gene, I don't care, female. Males, I want as many genetics in that one male as possible.
And
because
see,
then that one male can go to multiple females, as that one female can only go to one male.
That's what I've never understood about the ball python market. So I can take a male that is sexually mature.
Yep.
And I can pair him to 3 or 4 females that season.
Yep.
I'm only going to get 1 clutch of eggs out of a female.
Yep.
Why is it that fucking females are so much higher priced? Like, you're only getting 1 clutch a year out of that female. Yep. I can take that male and get 4 clutches out of him.
I'd rather buy a young female and raise her up, because it's cheaper, and 2, I still have the time. I have the time to breed that animal.
Yep.
But the amount of money I'm saving on raising this animal for a year, 2 years, whatever size I get it from. If I get just a little hatchling at 200 grams, I've got 2 years ahead of me to raise this female up. That's not a problem to me. But if I pay the same price I paid for that female for a breeder ready male, I can breed that 5 gene male to a ton of normal females, and I have 4 or 5 gene animals out of each one of those normal females. I never understood that. Never understood why everybody's always trying to buy the giant genetic females.
They're like, well, I don't want it. It's a male. And I'm like, dude, you can get 4 clutches out of this versus 1 out of a female that you're going to wait 3 years to get a clutch out of. This guy could be breeding next season for you.
Hi, Mrs. Fry. Appreciate you jumping in the chat. Our sponsor's wife jumps in, and I really appreciate it. Dude, she is a huge supporter of the channel. YouTube, Instagram, no matter where we go, she pops in, and I always make sure to make it a point that she pops on, because she's. I never see her in a lot of other breeders' lives, but when we go live, always in there, and I love it. She's a huge
Hey, that
support
means
in
you're
that.
doing something right. That means you're doing something right, man.
I appreciate that. I really do, because it means a lot to me. I
Darian,
can have.
I got to take just a second to give you props, man, because with everything you got going on in your personal life and being able to run a YouTube channel and a breeding operation and all the fucking reptiles that you keep, dude, you're a fucking beast, man. I mean,
Yeah.
the personal struggles that you have went through would probably, most people would have just fucking given up. And to see somebody that's going through that and be able to power through that and be able to host a YouTube channel and, everything else that you do, man, like, you've got my support, man.
I appreciate that a lot. It's not been easy.
Oh, I get it, dude. I get it.
There's times where I have to, do like there's times I won't go to bed for 3 days because I'm taking care of all these reptiles when I'm not taking care of the kids. And and especially with Lucian being everything that's going on with him, I'm always having to stop what I'm doing to make sure he's okay. And so I have to check on him constantly, especially after the last prognosis that we got. We really have to keep an eye on him. And so a lot of times I'm in here, I'm doing everything one-handed because I'm either holding him while I'm doing things or he's sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in and I give him my phone and let him watch TV while I'm doing all this like maintenance for the animals. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll have him sit in this chair and I'll give him a blanket and I'm like, here, hold this, and I'll give him a snake and I'll be like, here, you hold that, and I'm gonna clean the tub real quick. And so like that, he loves doing that. But it takes a lot to be able to handle the amount of animals that we have and be able to still make appearances on live and still be able to do everything. And I have to give a huge credit to my wife, who,
absolutely, dude.
She's been a huge trooper in all this. She's been there since day one for Lucian. So I say it this way, and a lot of people will tell me I look at it the wrong way, but my wife is the biggest trooper between the two of us because she does everything. She's the one that I do this full time. I take care of the kids and I deal with the reptiles. So this is my job. This is how I make income for the family. So I put food on the table.
Right.
She's now doing 2 jobs to make sure that we are not only just taken care of, but to make sure that we have enough money to be able to deal with Lucian's medical stuff because he's got a lot. And so like it's hectic, but we manage. So there's like I like the beginning of when we started this new year. I was doing lives every Monday and every Tuesday and every Friday. And I dropped off the face of the earth from beginning of January to like mid-January. Except for like the one live that I did at Pomona. And so after Pomona, we came back pretty. Apologize for the dogs. An ambulance just drove by. But so we, after Pomona, we came back strong and just started really posting again and doing these videos. But I had to really balance out my schedule, and I sleep maybe 4 hours a day, if that.
That's me, dude. Like, I don't sleep.
Yeah, and that's how I'm able to get through everything is while they're asleep, I'm able to deal with things that need to be dealt with. So either I'm dealing with the reptiles or I'm dealing with Lucian or just maintenance on the house. I don't know if you can hear the dogs out back. I apologize. They are going nuts. yeah, nothing stopping them there, dude. I think the old person down the way is having another episode because I can still hear the ambulance and the dogs are going ballistic. Um, but there's an old guy down the road from us, and he's an exaggerator. So he's like, I'm dying, I'm dying. No, he's just having like slight complications or like a slight discomfort.
I'm
So they
dying.
call him the cry or the one that cries wolf all the time. And but they always rush over there because he's old enough to where if he says he's dying, there's a chance.
It's
um,
funny because I've got a stepdaughter like that. She's 15, and dude, she gets a fucking hangnail, and she's like, "Am I gonna die from this?" I'm like, "Are you serious right now?"
I'm like that when I get sick. I'm like, hey, call the person that does the will. I was like, this is it. This is the one that's gonna do me in. My wife's like, stop being a baby. It's just a man cold. I'm like, no, you don't know. You don't
Hey,
understand.
I don't care what anybody says. Fucking man colds are real.
Yep. I got somebody on my back. I like it. Solo, what's up, Solo? Appreciate you jumping in. Appreciate that, Darian. Always here for you and the family. I appreciate that a lot. I really do. What's up, Solo? Appreciate you joining the live. So I have one more question for you before we wrap this up because we have been live for almost 3 hours, and I'm cool with it. I love it. This is one of this year. Actually, you know what? Of all the lives that I've done, this is one of my favorite ones. I give that to you 100%. This has been one of my favorite lives that I've done. How can my followers find you?
How can followers find me?
Yeah, how can my people find you?
I'm on Instagram, Madriver _ Serpents _ Rattery _ Rattery. And then we are also on Facebook. Now I'm not real hip on Facebook, just because Zuckerberg likes to fucking cancel culture everything, so I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook as far as updating because, I've made posts on there about animals that I have available and they instantly fucking take shit down. So, and then we are also on Morph Market. I do have, I think, 13 animals listed on there right now. Nothing special, but as I tell everybody, I have them listed on there. Those prices are not firm. They are negotiable. I'm willing to wheel and deal. So, pretty much, I mean, we're on all the major platforms. I am not on YouTube, so you won't find me there unless it's on somebody's show.
So what I'm hearing is we need to get you on YouTube.
No, I don't have time for that, Darren. I said that's a retirement goal when I'm 55 and I'm no longer working 60 hours a week and I can sit at home and drink beer, we might think about YouTube then. But it's not in the cards right now.
It's all right. When you start a YouTube, I'll be there. I'll make sure to help you get up there and following. Got you.
Yeah, I'll need some. I'll need somebody to fucking somebody to hold their wing out. So I got somebody to lean on, some support.
I got you, buddy. I'll teach you the ropes because I'm still learning most of them myself, so it's all good. Gives me some time to learn a little more. But rude. No, the big group best live. No, I didn't say it was the best live. I said one of my favorite. One of them. I didn't say that Fry because we had Fry on just recently too.
No, Fry, I won't take your spotlight, man.
But no, yeah, we definitely one of my favorite lives that we've done on this channel so far. I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing your passion with us. It's always fun having a really good conversation with you. And I really appreciate a lot of the help that you've done for us in the fundraisers and everything for my son. Absolutely, and always showing support. It means a lot.
Dude, kids will always hold a special place, man. Like I said, I've got 9 of them, and I've got grandkids, and there's nothing more precious in the world than being a parent or a grandparent. And those little people are the ones that's going to be, taking our place someday. So anything we can do to help out.
No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, we're still we're not out of the woods yet with that, especially after the last prognosis. We're our diagnosis. I'm not sure which the correct term is, but we're kind of just taking it day by day and just spending as much time with them as we can.
That's all you can do, man.
For sure. Kids are the next generation. Yep. And that's why I love doing what I do is, not even just like YouTube and stuff, but like doing like going out to shows, going out, even like I said, but this is the first time that we vended an actual of our animals. Most times I vend and help out on other people's table, and I just help out, and I love bringing it like animals for kids to hold or hang out with. There's times that I'll give an animal away that's not mine, but I'll pay for it because like, hey, it made the kid happy. Like every time we always end up giving at least one animal away. It's what we do. And it always ends up making like the kids really happy, and it's always like the kids first. Now I say this, I'm sure I'm going to have Eric up or trying to, follow up on a show and find like the most expensive snake on the table and be like, it's my birthday. It's my first one. But no, I really appreciate you jumping on. I appreciate you, Solo. I do.
I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been fun.
For sure. Like I said, this is one of my favorite ones.
This is only the second live show I've been on. So
which one was better? No, I'm just kidding. I won't make you answer that.
Brian Rivera.
Damn. I was like, which one's better? He was quick to answer that. He's like, not you. No.
It was about a year ago, I guess. So, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you considering having me on here, and because really, I mean, I have a lot of passion for the industry and the hobby, and I'm not as seasoned as a lot of the keepers that come on here, but I appreciate the opportunity.
So the one thing I want to touch on that too is there has been a few people, and it's not you or anything, and nothing towards you or anything like that. There's been so many people that have actually said something to me about this is why bring on smaller people, and because I've got a lot of higher following friends and things, and some of them have reached out to me like, why haven't you asked me to come on? There are people like yourself, like a few other people that aren't like super well known yet, that have like 50,000 plus followers or things like that, but you're passionate about what you do. You have really cool animals. You put in the work. You're really positive about everything. You put out positivity, and you help with bettering the community and bettering some of the people that are in it. You help out a lot, and that's my goal, is to bring on more people like yourself that aren't super well known yet. So if this if this channel ever takes off, doing your guys' videos helps you guys later on, because people will look back and be like, hey, what was he doing last year?
Well,
he was with this guy. Let's go check him out.
It's a building block to make you better too. Like every episode you do is a stepping stone to the next tier.
Right.
So
it helps everybody all around. And I love being able to bring people on like yourself that is just really passionate about what you do. I mean, if you weren't passionate about this would have been an hour live. Like,
right.
That's the most major thing I tell everybody. I ask everybody questions off of this paper. I go down the list, and we have our little side conversations as well as mostly what's on this paper. And you make the interview. I ask the questions, and the person that's in that box makes the interview. Now you can answer one-word answers, or or you could really show your passion and make this a really long live or whatever, that person makes the live. So to be on here for 3 hours, because now, yeah, we just broke 3 hours. So to be on here for 3 hours talking about all the animals you work with and explaining your passion and a lot of things like that, it shows and speaks volumes about how you feel about the animals and how you feel about everything you work with.
Well,
And so
here's one other thing I just kind of want to touch base on too before we go. So, there's a lot of podcasts out there, and everybody has their own audience, and listeners have their own preference. Okay.
Yep.
But how many times can podcasters interview the same people over and over and over again, and you're going to get a new story?
Yep.
At some point, everything's been talked about,
Yep.
up until what they had for dinner yesterday, So I think the diversity of bringing, the seasoned veterans, and let's not forget about them because, they're the ones that paved the way for people like me, to be able to keep and enjoy and talk about and educate people on the hobby and the industry. We don't want to forget the veterans, but at the same time, there's little people like me out here that we have a story to tell too.
Yep.
And people want to hear that story. Maybe not everybody. Everybody's got an audience, and sometimes I go off the rails with side conversations, but that's just my personality. My wife bitches at me all the time. You talk too much. But, I have a lot to say, and I, like I said, I appreciate everything you're doing, Darian, and like I said, with everything you're going through and being able to run a channel and the operation that you're running there. I mean, dude, I commend you because that takes a lot out of a person, to be able to do that. And I know how it is with my operation here. I mean, it's just me. My kids have no interest in it. My wife, she fucking hates snakes. So she doesn't come out here and listens to bullshit with me, but not if I have snakes out. They've all got to be in the tubs. And, sometimes
I wish it was that way for me. Mine loves the reptiles, but she loves playing with the reptiles. But when it comes to cleaning or anything else, nowhere to be found.
And sometimes I feel like I've gotten in a little over my head too, just with everything I've got going on. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't change what I do, because I enjoy what I do. Even if I never gain anything but self-gratification from being able to say, you know what, I did that and I enjoyed it while I did it. And that's really what this is. It's enjoy what you do. And, I've always been told if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yep.
And I love what I do. So I don't consider it work.
It's funny, I'm not the only one that uses that saying because I say that a lot. It's I don't see this as work. I love working with these animals. I love playing with these animals. I'm a glorified pooper scooper is the best way I tell everybody.
Yeah, spot cleaning day is not always the greatest,
Yeah, like it's we get to feed, you get to see us handle them, but there's more poop in that cage than anything else.
Yeah,
and the one thing,
there's a pile of shit in there bigger than one that your dog would dump, and you're like, what the fuck, man?
Oh, come on! Right as you say that, I can hear it in the cage above, and she just had a pig. Hold on, I'm gonna see how bad this is. Oh, and it's going on the wall. You suck. I want you to know that. You suck.
Sorry, man.
Oh, not you, her. She's had a 4-pound pig, and all I hear is her going to the bathroom on the wall right now. And it has to be in the back corner because this glass doesn't open right here in this corner. So she's going in that corner. So that way I have to get up on something to get up in there.
It's funny, too, because about a month ago, my wife came in the house from out in the garage.
I smell it.
Which we call the snake room. It's actually a snake room, but it was a garage at one time. She come in the house and she goes, I have a question. And I said, what? She goes, do snakes pass gas? And I was like, yeah. She goes, I wondered. She's like, I was sitting out there, and she's like, I heard the most god awful fucking noise, and I was like, what the fuck was that? Oh yeah, welcome to Reptile Movie. I said, I'm sure there's a big pile of
I'm
shit
like right as you say it, I hear it, and it sounds like she had Taco Bell. Oh my god! And like I said, she had a 4-pound pig.
Oh, I seen the
So
feeding video.
this is gonna be horrible, and somebody's gonna have to see it because I'm turning it into a reel. Get a big get a big snake. You said it's fun. They said.
Oh yeah,
It's the size of a fucking dog. Oh, it's gonna be so bad because I can smell it from here. And this is a 6 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot cage, and she's 2 feet behind me.
She's probably gonna fucking.
Oh, don't say it now. Oh God, if she, I don't know about this one, but one of our retics, Lucy, who is the worst freaking snake ever. She is 16 to 18 feet long. I can't get an exact measurement because most times she's ready to strike. She hates the world. I got her as a rescue. But what she likes doing is she likes playing in her own poop. So she legitimately gets it all over her face, all over her, and then just smears it everywhere. On the roof, on the back wall, all over the glass. Oh God! Whoever says get a big snake, you know it's awesome. They just hate you, like secretly. Like I just want you to know that. Like that is like the best way I can describe that. Like, why? I have to look again. I have to see how bad this is. Yep, she's gonna go play in it. Thanks, appreciate you. Fucking disgusting. And she's not done either. Snakes. I love them. You know what's messed up? She was supposed to be in a photo shoot today, so that would have been hilarious because she'd have pooped all that movement. Guarantee she'd have pooped on somebody today. That would have been
the best time too when you get them out and you're handling them, and then they fucking shit all over you or all over the floor, and it splatters. I went
to a school. So she had went okay. So I went to a school, and I have another big Burmese that we take to schools. Well, so she had gone to the bathroom that day. So I was like, okay, she's done. Like she's good. And so I gave her a good soak, and I made sure she was nice and clean and purty, and made sure that she had no poop on her. And so then I put her in a dry tub and cleaned her off really well. Off we went. We get to the school, and my common joke is always, you always get that kid, is it going to eat me or is it going to bite me? I'm like, no, she's not going to do that. She only poops on kids with black shoes or whatever color shoe they're wearing. And so like this kid had red shoes. So I was like, no, she only poops on kids with red shoes. And so he started laughing, you know, he was joking around, right? Yeah, no, not this time. I actually that joke became reality because all the kids were holding her, and I kept watching him go like this on her tail, like he was going through the motion. I'm like
massaging it out of there.
I was like, what are you doing? And then I noticed her tail is going like this, like in him, and I'm like, oh no. So I was like, hey, somebody come here. So I had the teacher come here. I was like, here, hold the head. And they're like, why? I was like, because that is about to poop on a kid. So either you grab the tail or you grab the head. And she was like, oh no. And so she's like, I'm gonna grab the tail. So, all right, whatever. Teacher's wearing red shoes, okay? So the teacher grabs the tail, and I tell the kids, like, hey, slowly bring her down to the ground. So we start bringing her down to the ground, and then all over this lady's shoes. And it was hilarious because all the kids knew what happened that were out like sitting in front of us because we were on the stage. So I had a bunch of kids that were like, you know, the really good ones that I picked out of the crowd. They all got to come up and hold the snake up. And so I had them, or so they saw what happened on stage because it was straight water and like crap. And he massaged it out of her.
They're like, look,
And
Peach's got red shoes.
right, yeah. And that's when the little kid and the little Timmy in the back goes, she got red shoes.
He
She
wasn't
got
lying.
red shoes. And then you hear everybody's laughing. And then the one kid up front, he goes, they ain't red no more.
There's nothing worse either, man.
The lady goes, she's like, I work in the special ed department, so I keep 2 pairs of shoes, so it's okay. And I'm like,
well, you might want to throw them away.
I told her, whoa. What happens to, like, you're taking this really well. I wanted to know. I was like, how often does this happen to you? She's like, I keep 2 sets of shoes in the classroom. And I was like, why? And she's like, shit happens. I was like, what the fuck happens at this school? Like,
how many times have you had a snake shit on you?
yeah, I was like, what is going on? Dude, she didn't even bat an eye. Like, it happened. She knew it was happening, and it just, she didn't get out of the way in time. And instead of like, ew, and like moved, she just stood there and let it happen.
Nice.
I was like, ew, you're going to smell.
Oh, yeah, dude. It's an unmistakable smell, too. Like,
Yeah. Like, I was like, ew. And it was early in the morning, too. So, like, this was like, I don't know, 11 o'clock in the morning. So they don't get out of school till like 3:30. So
I have an old friend. She's probably in her late 60s, and she's an RN, retired registered nurse. And her husband are just the nicest people. But I was talking to her one day, and I said, hey, she was asking me about my snakes. And I said, yeah. She's like, well, how many do you have? And I said, oh, I don't know, probably around 100. And she goes, well, I want to come over to your house and see them. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, I don't want to give you a fucking heart attack, you know? And she's like, no. She's like, I love reptiles. She goes, they always have that distinct smell. She's like, does your room that you keep them in, does it stink? And I said, well, no. I said, I spot clean like every other day, you know? Mm-hmm. I said, usually you only get like a really strong smell if you're not, you know, keeping up with the, you know, cleaning the cages. And she goes, man, she's like when I go to the zoo, she's like, and I walk in the reptile building, she's like, you can just tell there's reptiles in there. I said, well, yeah, they have a smell unlike walking in a hog barn or, you know, walking in my rat barn. Like, there's no mistake in walking in a rat barn that it smells like fucking rats in there. But like, she's like, why? It's just an unmistakable smell. And I said, well, yeah, I said, it's not something that's common, but you definitely know there's reptiles in there.
I stood up to see if she's still going. She stopped, but I can still see a huge lump towards the back end. So she's going to go again. And she is sitting on top of the original one. So that means she's going to rub that all over the cage. This would be horrible. I'm just going to let her finish. I'm not cleaning. I'm not pulling her out just to clean her, clean the cage, and then come back in the morning and it'd be done and be like this again. So this is going to probably be a live tomorrow of, you want a big snake? Are you sure?
Oh, you want to be a snake breeder?
Glorified pooper scoopers.
That's like my wife, because I wear rubber gloves when I spot clean, because it's just easier for me to reach in there and grab it with a rubber glove versus getting spray and trying to isolate it. You know, I'll get all the big pieces out with a rubber glove, and then, you know, all the nasty substrate in that area, and then I'll take cleaner and clean that area. And my wife was out here the other day when I was cleaning. She goes, that is so fucking gross. She's like, you just pick that up with your hand. I was like, it's not my bare hand. Like, I was like, what do you do when your dog shits in the yard? Like, if you don't have a pooper scooper, you go out there with a bag turned inside out. You scoop it up, flip the bag, invert the bag, you know, and then the poop's in the bag, you know.
Yeah, see, I'm not that, like, I will legitimately sometimes, like, ball pythons. I'm just like, I'll just roll a paper towel because I keep mine on paper towels. So I'll just scoop it up with my hand, throw it away, and I'm like, ew, I'm gonna wash my hand out and I'm done.
That's what I told my wife. I said, your fucking hands wash. Like, it's not like we don't have soap and water.
Yeah, so I told my wife, I'm like, yeah, I'm washable. But like within reach, and I know I'm gonna need these. I've got
for years.
Two rolls of paper towels and a pooper scooper. I'm ready to go.
I lived on a hog and cattle farm for years, you know, so I've been in hog barns in stalls where the fucking manure was, you know, over your ankles.
Yep.
and it's soupy, and you're in there with a fucking shovel scooping that shit out and putting it in a manure spreader, and it's just running out the bottom because it's so, wet and nasty. I've had hog shit all over me. A little snake poop ain't gonna fucking hurt me, I promise.
Yeah, I'm about to say no. We used to breed butcher hogs. We used to have Yorkshire, Hampshire. We had blue butts from the two Durocs.
And I'll tell you, there ain't no worse smell in the world because you can walk in a hog barn and you don't have to touch anything, and that shit will just cling to your clothes.
Yeah,
I mean it does.
Yeah, we had ours outside, so we didn't have like a barn. We just had ours live outside, and it was still that way. Like you went by the pigs, you smelled like a pig.
Like if you were going anywhere for like the weekend or something, like on a Friday night, you didn't go out to the hog barn before you left to go on your date.
Hell no.
You're going to go on your date smelling like hog shit, even if you didn't touch anything in there, because that shit will just cling to everything. And people will know you've been in a hog barn the minute you walk out. They're like, God damn.
Get a pig, they said. It's fun, they said.
No, dude, pigs are dirty, nasty fucking creatures. They taste great, but they are disgusting.
I had a baby that I raised inside for a little bit because his mom stepped on him when he was born, so she peeled the skin on his leg, and so I had to heal him up. Dude, I named this pig Tucker, and he thought he was a dog because he was raised around our other dogs.
Dude,
I kid you not, dude, he was barking like a dog. He was running through the doggy door up and down stairs.
We had a pig years ago, a big sow that laid on a baby and basically paralyzed this baby pig from like halfway down its spine. It couldn't move its back legs. And my grandmother brought this pig in the house in a bushel basket and had it sitting on our back porch. And she would go out there 4, 5, 6 times a day and bottle feed this baby pig, right? And take him outside and hold him up so he could use the bathroom. Well, we had a big German Shepherd dog named Hank, and Hank fucking hated that pig, dude. Every chance he got, he would go in there and grab that bushel basket with the fucking pig in it, and he'd take that son of a bitch out to the garden and try to dig a hole and bury it. And my grandma would have to go out across the yard yelling at this fucking dog, Hank, bring the pig back. Hank, bring the pig back. So,
we've had a few of those where the mom lays on the pig. It's actually where I started feeding pigs to snakes because the terrible moms killing the babies.
But here's the thing. A sow pig can be 700-800 pounds, and then you got this little baby pig that's maybe 2 pounds at birth.
Yeah,
maybe. When that big old sow lays down, she don't know them babies are underneath her. I mean, that's
she goes down. You better yell it the damn way. I know that's that's the crazy part of it all. Is you never know. We used to have, I think we had like 16 females and a handful of males. And then we had, we still have a farm, but like right now we kind of cut down on everything. Like we only got I got 2 potbelly females that we're getting rid of. There's 2 donkeys that my mother-in-law's that she's talking about getting rid of. And then the other animal that's back there, besides all the reptiles, is my wife has this cow. And she has had this cow for over 10 plus years. I think it's things like 13, if that. This cow was a teenager, and she's had it forever. And it's crazy because I told her, I was like, dude, you were into morphs before you even knew what a morph was. And she's like, what do you mean? And so most Jersey cows are brown.
Correct.
She has a black Jersey.
Oh, wow.
And this thing is completely black, but it has the mark of the Jersey right above the nose.
Right.
And so she came from a dairy farm that only had Jerseys, and they had a lot of black Jerseys and a lot of just normal Jerseys. And so she has written proof of everything of it being a black Jersey.
That's crazy.
And it was funny because she used to do 4-H and FFA. So she would show cows. And so she would bring her cow. And it was funny because she was one of the only people out of bringing dairy that would bring a black Jersey. Everybody else either had normal Jerseys or Holsteins.
Yep.
And so she had like that big wow factor, and she had people trying to buy that thing off of her left and right. I was trying to sell that thing behind her a few times, and she's like, "You sell my cow, I'll kill you." I was like, I'll take. I was like, "I'll take it." I was like, depending on how much she goes for, I might have a pretty
Hey,
good head
Danny,
start.
post that motherfucker up on Morph Market.
Right. So I told her, I was like, they have a morph market for cows. She's like, I'm gonna say no, but there's probably a thing for that.
Just put it on the reptile morph market and see if anybody says anything.
Didn't see anybody say anything. Not a black jersey. Was told it was a really unique reptile. It's all right. When anybody ever asks me if I have like a big, like if I bring out like some of the big lizards and stuff to like, I'll go to some grassy parts because I'm in the middle of the desert, so there's no grass here. For photo shoots and stuff. So we'll go to like the park. And I'm away from everybody. That way, it's not like I'm, just waving a giant lizard in front of somebody's face or something, And so I'm away from everybody, but I always get those people that run up and they're like, "Oh my God, what is that?" I'm like, what are you freaking out about? The pound set told me this was a Chihuahua. Or if it's like something big, I'm like, the pound said it was a pit bull. I don't know. And they're like, wait, what? Like, dude, they'll lose their shit.
It has
Because like out here, the most common thing, if you go to our like any shelter or go to any shelter out here, is this thing could be a black lab, and they're gonna go black lab mix pit bull, or they'll label it as a pit bull mix. It can be a husky pit bull mix.
Dude, and the worst part is like a lot of the pit bulls I see, like people selling as purebred pit bulls, they're not even fucking pit bulls. Like
no, that's the thing nowadays. But
everybody has a pit bull.
See, I love pits. I grew up around pits. I love them.
I got a golden doodle, and he's dumber than a bag of hammers.
Yeah, see, I don't have any more dogs. We had two, but the ones that were going off, those are my mother-in-law's. 825 subs. Let's get it, bro, to 1K around the corner. I appreciate that, Fry. I didn't even know I was at 825. Last I checked, I think it was at 820 or 822.
I've got a boxer. She's 13, and she's getting to that point in her life where she just wants to lay around and sleep. And I feel like at some point I'm going to have to make that decision. And
I had to make that decision right before Pomona. So I've had this dog for years, and I got her as an adult. But she was a black lab Rottweiler mix. And, with Rottweilers, they get hip dysplasia. Yeah. I've had this dog for almost 10 years. As long as I've been with my wife, as long as I've had this dog. And so I came home one day, and she was acting odd, and she was really, really, really playful the day before, and so we were playing around, and she used to act like that like when she was younger, but not lately. And then I came home the very next day, and she couldn't walk. She was dragging her back end. So the saying, it's they have a really good day, and then that next day it's time. Yeah. And so we had to put her down the next day because there was nothing we can do. Like, she was already at that point where she was an old girl. I think she was at least 14.
And that's the shitty part, man. Dogs don't live very long, because I would give anything for that dog to live as long as I do, because she's been a great dog, and it just
100%.
sucks because I'm never going to find another dog with the personality that she has. And like I said, she's just getting to the point now where she can't hold her bladder, and she wants to sleep all the time. She barely eats, and it's like, am I being selfish because I don't want to let her go, but at the same time, I'm not going to be that person that puts her through a bunch of shit.
Right.
She's not in pain right now, but it's going to get to that point, and we as dog owners have to, we have to do what's right.
Right.
And if that means letting them go, then that's what we have to do, is let them go. You can't.
It's better to do that than let them suffer for our own, selfishness. I get it 100%. That's why I had to put mine down. She was in pain, So I had to put her down because
I
it
mean,
was.
I keep telling my wife that, if I'm ever in a state where I'm in pain, just put me down.
I told my wife I had to get in a wheelchair. I was like, put me down. I was like, leave me in the desert with one of my guns and don't bother coming back because I ain't gonna be around. I absolutely refuse to be in a wheelchair. I'm supposed to be in a wheelchair right now. Because of what happened with my leg and my back and everything that's all going on. Like I have a lot of twisted vertebrae in my back that cause a lot of pain when I do a lot of like up down stuff. Like if I have to pick a lot of stuff up and put it back down. And so we have that issue where I'm supposed to have that, like, they wanted to fix it, but it was going to cause me to be in a wheelchair, or it could cause me to be in a wheelchair. And so I just leave it. I've kind of grown with, like, I live with the pain. So at this point, like, it's not that bad anymore. But
Right.
from when the hog took out half my calf, and completely hollowed out my calf, they wanted me to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. They straight told me, they're like, you're not going to walk again. I was like, you want to make a bet? I'm walking my happy ass on out of here. And sure shit, I fucking get my happy ass out of there. They're like, you need to get in the wheelchair. I was like, fuck that. I'm walking. I was like, dude, if it wasn't for the morphine, best believe my fat ass had been in that wheelchair. And that's actually when that pig took out my leg and everything. I ended up butchering them up, but I ate them. But if it wasn't for that morphine, I wouldn't have the energy to do it. But
I feel you, man. Getting old sucks, man. It really does.
See, that's the only thing that sucks. I'm only 25.
Oh, I'm 44, dude.
I was like, this is the fucked up thing, is everybody's like, getting old, it sucks. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not old yet. I'm still a young buck. They're like, nah, you're like 30 something. I was like, I'm fucking 25.
I was 25 yesterday. And I woke up one day. I woke up this morning. I was like, fuck, where the fuck did time go, man? Like,
see, I do that when I look at my kids. I'm like, man, I remember when you guys were little babies.
dude,
Now you're over here talking. I was like, I remember when you didn't talk and it was really cute. Now you talk and I can't get you to shut up.
Dude, when you blink, next thing you know, you got grandkids, and it's like, that's when you know you're fucking old. When your kid tells you that you're going to be a grandparent, it's like, no, I'm not ready for this point in my life.
Right? Like, I'm not old. It's funny. My stepmom is not much older than I am. And so when I had kids, she's like, no, you can't have kids. I was like, why? She's like, I'm not old enough to be a grandmother. She wasn't even 30 yet. And she's like, I'm not old enough to be a grandma. I was like, well, too bad. I was like, guess you're fucked now, huh? But
my daughter broke the news to me on my 40th birthday.
Nice.
Our first grandbaby was on the way, and I was like, and looking back, I kind of like, I don't know, I probably could have said it differently, but I opened up this box that she wrapped up for my birthday thinking it was a gift, and when I opened it, it was a pregnancy test. And my first words to her was, are you fucking serious right now? But it was the whole I'm 40, man. Like, I'm not grandparent age yet. And like it took a while to sink in. Like, you're a fucking grandpa, man. And I love every minute of it now, but I wasn't happy about it at first. But it is what it is. I've got 3 grandkids now, so
I see. That's I don't know. I think with everything going on with Lucian, I'm not ready to be a grandparent, but that's something I look forward to.
Like,
it's something I wish for him, as he gets older. That's something I wish to see. Will I see it? I don't know. But if the doctors are correct, probably not. But it's something that I think I find myself looking forward to.
You gotta stay optimistic, man. Like,
I know. I try. It's hard,
But the thing is, nobody can ever tell you how you feel. You feel how you feel, and at the end of the day, I mean, nobody has the right to tell you how to feel.
This only thing is, I don't know how I feel. I get emotion.
I get it.
I don't know. I don't understand emotion very well. That part in my brain don't work.
That's
dormant.
me, dude. Like, I handle worse situations totally different than most people do. And
Yep.
people, I've been accused before of, well, you don't show any emotion, you don't care. No, it's not
Yep.
that at all. Like I handle things internally differently
Yep.
than people do externally. I'm not
Yep.
one of these people to bust out crying or, normally it's I want to go fucking destroy something or
You're just like me, man, or vice versa.
I'm angry at the fucking world.
That's me. Like I told my wife, I was like, dude, I'm one step away to finding one of those. I forget exactly what it's called. I looked it up, but it is you go to this building. You literally pay them like I think it's like $40 for one person, and they just set up a room for you to just destroy shit.
Yeah, I've
seen that.
And
it's like yep. And we have one in Phoenix. And I told my wife, I was like, dude, I'm like one bad day away from fucking setting a day up and just letting loose on some shit.
I'm one day away from paying the $40.
Yeah. Like it's either that or I go out and I go shooting and I go blow some shit up. Like Tanneray's a hell of a thing.
Yeah, them fuckers down in Texas, man, they're doing that hog hunting with Tannerite. Yep. Man,
hell yeah,
that shit's fucking off the hook, dude.
I fucking would, man. Them hogs. After losing half my calf, I may be a little prejudiced to hogs, but I want to go to Texas and shoot some hogs out of a helicopter. I saw a video where they were in a helicopter chasing these things, and you got people on quads chasing the herd, and then they're just sitting there in the helicopter.
I seen one the other night. These guys were in like a military style Humvee, just fucking booking it across this field, dude. And they had like semi-auto rifles, and they're just, dude, there's probably 60 or 70 hogs in that field, and they're just like pow, 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 pow. And I'm like, damn, that'd be so much fun.
That would be cool. I'm not gonna lie, that'd be so cool. I've seen some nighttime hunting ones where they have the thermals, and they're hunting hogs in the fields at night. I'm like, yep, yeah, with the laser and everything. Like, yep. I was like, I need that. I need it, and I want to do this.
That shit would be awesome.
Yep. I told my wife, I was like, this is gonna be like something I need to go do in like the next couple of years. Like, I'm gonna go chop these up, and then I'm gonna bring home a ton of bacon.
See, in Ohio, we have feral hogs, but they're few and far between. I've never seen one personally, but people claim around this area that there's feral hogs, but whether there is or not, I don't know. That's neither here nor there. But I know in Texas, man, it's a major fucking problem there. Yeah,
Texas, it's bad. A friend of mine owns a farm out there, and I guess they tear up a ton of his crop.
Oh yeah, I mean they'll destroy a fucking field.
Yeah, he said he had a whole, like, I think it was like 30-something acres of just nothing but like corn that he was growing right there. And they went right into the middle of it and then started tearing it up from the middle to out.
Yep. And you get like
he didn't know until
of them in a group, man, and they're spread out, man. They're just going to riddle a field, man.
Yep, they destroyed that whole field from the inside. So when you drive by it, it looked good.
It looked good until you start harvesting.
What happened was he didn't know until one of the people that they pay to fly over to crop dust told him, like, hey, you have hogs up in your field and they are destroying the shit out of it. He's like, I flew through and I took a video, and he showed him the video of it. And dude, they destroyed acre upon acre inside the fields. And so he was like, dude, like, what the hell? Like, I just irrigate, I flood this out. And like, he's like, I never really go into the fields.
Right.
And cause he manages it all himself. And so he's like, I never have time to go in there and do it all myself and like actually check up on all the crop. So he's like, if they didn't tell me, they'd have eaten until they really started getting towards the ends, like where he drives through and checks the lines and everything. He's like, I'd have never known. And so they had to go out there. They had to get a bunch of hunters. He was talking about flying me out and giving me a rifle and everything, and go shoot some hogs out in his field.
That'd be fun.
I told him, I was like, dude, put your money where your mouth is. I will clear a whole week. Let's do this. I was like, I am ready to go to the airport right now. But
Well, I gotta get going, man. So
no, you're good. I appreciate you jumping on and hanging out with us. It was awesome hanging out and chopping it up with you.
Absolutely, man.
you know, I had it was a great live. You know, we'll definitely have you on again at some point for sure. We do a lot of, or we used to do a lot of hangout lives, kind of like what we were doing here,
Yeah,
towards
just
the
let me
end of
know, man.
this. So I'm going to try to bring those back on like weekends or something. So, if that's something that you want to be a part of,
Oh,
just to have, it's just me and a couple other just random idiots like Eric and, you know, I don't know if you know Eric B.
I don't believe so.
Is the one that has Cartman as his logo.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay. I've seen his logo.
um,
Unmistakable logo.
yeah, well, he had the unmistakable logo. And then I don't know if you saw, but he made a video of him and doing a weird little dance on Cartman, or he had his face, but Cartman's body doing a weird dance. It was funny as hell. You have to go look it up. It's hilarious. It's Eric's Exotics, the funniest
Okay.
freaking thing in the world. But yeah, no, it'll probably be him, me, and a few other people just jumping up here, just chopping it up, talking random stuff. That was hilarious. Yeah, a few people have seen it and they think it's freaking funny. But all right, brother, I appreciate you jumping on, spending almost 4 hours with us. It means a
Absolutely,
lot
man.
to me, and you know, the best thing you can give somebody is your time. So I really appreciate it. But I'll definitely catch you on the next one, brother. It was always great having you on.
I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Not a problem. Well, all right, guys, we're gonna end this one out. I appreciate you guys. I'm gonna run this video just to show off all the sponsors and stuff last minute. But we're out of here. You guys have a fantastic night, and I'll catch you all on the next one.